welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Happy to be here with you every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Hope you're enjoying yourselves this morning, having a wonderful week. We were talking off the air here with Danny Schayes about how cold it is up north, and it is freezing this morning. So I will say this to you: if you, like me, have an awesome dog, or you got a cat, or whatever animal you have that you might let outside this morning, please, when you do it quickly and make sure that you're watching them, and then go out and get them if you need to, because sometimes animals don't know and they'll stay outside in the cold. So please be careful out there, folks, and make sure when you go out today that you put pants on when you go and get the mail. So with that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, all jokes aside, we're happy that you're here with us inside of MonPazPopcorn.com's What's Poppin', starting off the show here in hour number one with Danny Schayes. Danny Schayes joining me of Syracuse Orange men's basketball history, and he is coming to the show this morning from Indianapolis, where he is at the NBA All-Star Weekend. So we'll be discussing Syracuse basketball. We'll be discussing Jim Boeheim, as the next game that Syracuse will play at home is against Notre Dame on February 24th at noon, and it's Jim Boeheim Day, and we'll be honoring the longtime head coach of almost 5 decades of being a head coach at Syracuse. So we'll speak with Danny Schayes about Jim Boeheim, as well as the state of Syracuse basketball after defeating top 10 nationally ranked North Carolina at home in the Dome, a game I was on site for. And then we'll get into NBA All-Star Weekend. In hour number two, Ross Turetsky is going to be joining the show, and him and I will have the opportunity to speak with you on the NFL. He'll give his take. This all coming off of Super Bowl 58. And a lot of different people coming on to the show with their thoughts, with their opinions. And Ross is somebody that I've worked with for many, many years, fellow sportscaster and writer, and an opportunity here for us to really break down from his point of view where the Chiefs at and the Niners, Pat Mahomes, Brock Purdy, as we step forward, what is the state of the NFL? We'll also get into the fact that Major League Baseball, believe it or not, folks, is on its way. And they're going to be starting spring training very, very soon. And, of course, we'll also keep with baseball with Ross, as he is the new Luzerne County Community College head baseball coach in Pennsylvania. So a lot of great stuff coming up here on the show in hour one and in hour two. And it is always my honor and my privilege to welcome to the broadcast wonderful people like this gentleman, Mr. Danny Schayes. And Danny, always love our conversations. They go by so fast, so I'm going to try and slow this one down to the best of my ability. Danny, how are we doing today?
Actually, I'm doing great. I'm here in Indianapolis, and with a balmy 45 degrees, I think we're expecting today. A little overcast, but at least it's nice to be able to walk outside without getting that blast in the face. Although I have to admit, the NBA is getting some criticism for having a series of cold weather All-Star games. So look for LA, Phoenix, and Miami in the near future.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and you and I were talking about it off the air, that Toronto, obviously had done it, and we're looking at the time period that this happens. It happens in February. And I was telling you off the air, I was up in Toronto in January for a string of days a few years back, pre-COVID. And when I was up in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, it was the warmest it was like 0 or 2. And then it was -12, -2, -7, or -5, whatever it may be. Extremely cold. I mean, when you look at February, it's gonna be cold in the Midwest, in the upper part of the Midwest. It's gonna be cold in the Northeast and whatnot. I mean, it's not like it's any surprise. But what are your thoughts on it? I mean, the NBA's got to travel around the country. They got franchises everywhere. Does it bother you that in February during All-Star Weekend you got to put on a couple sweatshirts?
No, actually, it gets me to go to the team store and get some nice All-Star gear. So that's my son nagged me already. He said, "Yeah, make sure you pick me up some swag from All-Star." But Dan, it's basketball weather.
Yeah.
Right? Growing up in Syracuse, growing up there, going to college there, I never saw a winter day without snow on the ground. Right? It's basketball season.
Yeah.
I remember, the 1975 Final Four. The Roy's runs played in San Diego. And, the newscaster used to put on the San Diego weather guide to show it's 75 and sunny. We're like, nah, no place in the world it's 75 and sunny right now. And my rookie year, the Clippers were still in San Diego. I remember going down there and January to play a game and go, no, this isn't basketball season. Look at it. I'm at the beach. That's the first time I ever played an NBA game with a sunburn. And because I had to hit the beach. I played terrible, by the way, in case you're wondering. Sunburn is not a good feature for a game. And but I had a hard time adjusting, actually, to basketball without snow on the ground. And, for us He-Men, right, we're the Syracuse winners' home court advantage. It's a point of pride.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, it's basketball weather. It's interesting that in all my years playing basketball, covering basketball, never in my head did I think to myself, playing with a sunburn, but I can imagine that was extremely uncomfortable and strange and, like you said, atypical of basketball. But can you go back to that moment? Because, the first thing that came to my mind was when they were going into the playoffs and the game.
Galactically bad idea. Boxing out was an adventure, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
And but it was my first time in San Diego. I'm a young kid fresh out of college, and so I had to hit the beach. We had the off day on the travel day. So, I learned my lesson early. That's the experience you get playing in the league. But it was always fun going down to Phoenix or LA. When I came out of Syracuse, went right to my first 9 years were Utah and Denver. So a fake winter compared to Syracuse, but still snow on the ground, right? And so, it was always nice to get down for those few trips to Texas or once a year to Florida. Although Miami, Orlando didn't come in until the late '80s. But it was it was, like I said, always fun to get a quick respite out of the winter.
And now being in Indianapolis, so when you look at Indianapolis and you look at this All-Star weekend and this opportunity that you have to be around, people from all over the country, maybe some people that you played with, catch up with people and whatnot, is this something that is a normal thing for you to make it a point to go to NBA All-Star weekend? Is this something that you've done year in and year out? Do you kind of pick and choose your spots, or how do you decide when it comes to All-Star weekend?
Most of the time I go, and throughout the years I've been very involved in sports business and technology. So my trip here is several-fold. One, on the most basic level, it's one of the few times all the retired guys get together. There's a summer conference, but the All-Star weekend is the real basketball event. So there'll be tons of retired guys here. I used to run the Retired Association, the NBA Retired Player Association, as the executive director and board chairman. So hanging out with the old guys is always fun. Old teammates, guys you played against, even Georgetown guys who I could actually talk to now, right? All different. So that's kind of number one for the social side. There's a ton of events that's not the game. The game actually has become the least appealing thing personally, because now it's just been a run up and down dunk fest. So, but there's lots of events. The NBA does a technology summit on the Friday where they roll out the next 5-year vision of their technology, and that's the business I'm in now. So I'll be there actively, talking business. They're also doing an interesting thing. They're rolling out a exhibition floor for the All-Star Saturday night that's essentially the Jumbotron on the floor. There's a company that made the court out of LED panels. So the actual court is the Jumbotron. And so they'll be doing all kind of special effects, live during the 3-point dunk contest and the rookie game, those kind of things. So I'm here to check that out as well. And, so half business, half pleasure.
Yeah, and you talk about the technical side of things and that piece. What got you so interested in that world, in really just the, obviously you play the game for so long, you're on the court, you could play on a court anywhere, indoor, outdoor, small gym, huge arena, but everything else that's going on around it. What got you interested in the technical side?
Well, I started out as a player. I was a player rep for my teams most of the years, about 10 of my 18 years. And then during 98, near the end of my career, we had the big lockout year. And I was one of the lead negotiators for the player side and got very involved with the league's business, understanding, how they made money, what the different issues were between the players. As you know, because we're represented by a union, we can bargain lots of things that are traditionally antitrust violations, like the draft, for instance, or salary limits. All those things are antitrust violations, but they're negotiated collectively and agreed on, so they become an exception. And so I got super interested in the league's business. I worked several years as an economist in the sports world, doing everything from team valuations, dynamic and variable ticket pricing, sponsor activations, evaluating sponsor assets, etc. Did a big economic study of the NBA's new TV deal, the last TV deal, how it would affect player salaries, and just kind of stayed involved. In my last gigs, I was doing digital strategy for Fortune 500 companies, converting from paper to digital. And now I've combined them all, and I'm doing it all in the sports, specifically in the sports world. So everything from now, fan engagement, right, with the technology. So you're seeing Apple coming out with their 3D goggles. You've seen things like, what happens on the Jumbotron, how fans can get, tracked and connected with inside the arenas. Things on TV. You see the technology in football where they had the first down marker, and the NBA put the 24-second clock embedded on the court now visually. You can see on TV. All those are technology advantages and upgrades to how the fans and the players interact. Obviously, social media, streaming TV, all these things are changing the way the game is really viewed, and as a result, how it's played. And so it's a super intriguing area.
Yeah, and for you, what is coming? Is there anything on your mind of where we're at right now? I know you're talking about, the LED, that the board is the court now, and all these incredible things that people would have never even thought about, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, to do something like this. Where are we heading? Is there anything in the pipeline of kind of looking at what you've witnessed and how technology has gone and how different decision making has gone? When you're anticipating maybe some future moves, is there anything that you're seeing down the line?
Well, what is the biggest trend moving forward is as technology is accelerating, right? How do the way fans interact with the game has changed.
Right.
It used to be we'd sit down with our popcorn and six-pack and watch a game, have friends over, make it a destination. Now, everything is highlight packages on our phones, streaming services, more interactive, with the sports betting is huge. All those dynamics coming into it, with the different in-game parlays and the things that where fans can directly impact, or be involved, actually kind of play, not just watch. Instead of, like I said, watching games, it's all highlight packages. Cable is less of an impact. So really, and now, of course, you're going 3D as these types of interactive technologies become more mature. In theory, the NBA is working towards you put on your glasses, sit in your living room, and you're in the front row virtually in any arena, and your buddy 1,000 miles away is in the chair next to you, right? And you're watching the game live in the arena from your living room, right? I mean, that is, one of the visions as that technology gets more and more developed. So like I said, all the ways we interact, because as you know, Dan, only less than 1% of sports fans will ever step foot in an arena. And globally, right? Almost, very, very small percentage will ever actually go to a game. And so the way with technology, how they interact is accelerating. But now with AI coming into it, where you can do things faster, more human-like. It's again, it's where is all that going? That's being decided on the fly, and the market will tell us where it goes.
When you look at artificial intelligence here with Danny Schayes at Syracuse, an NBA alum here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, what do you see of a benefit of artificial intelligence? There's a lot of conversation about how safe is this. Any movie ever made by mankind in any time of history shows AI as a very negative, powerful, once you create it, you can't stop it type of thing. So is artificial intelligence, in your opinion, is it a good thing? Is it a companion of humanity? Or are we in a place where it could be a good thing, but also a slippery slope?
Well, I was a big Terminator fan back in the day, so I totally get the conversation.
Yeah.
And, it's the reality is it's both. It has huge potential, and I think more the forces driving it will determine. Obviously, the dark side is always present. Where we are now from the sports side is really, how to do things more in a more personal, interactive way, right? And that's where the real advantage is. So, for sports fans who want to engage with the game. There's part two of the conversation is, do we want to make everyone a couch potato sitting on their sofa wearing goggles, totally dissociated from the world, right?
Yeah.
Is that get you more engaged or less engaged, right? So all these things are really in complete flux. The world is not yet figured out how to, let's just stay in the sports realm, right? How to interact with the technology. It's growing exponentially. The capabilities are, and like I said, what fans will respond to is ultimately what will, and how do you measure that? What they'll use and pay for. And that'll ultimately decide where it goes, based on that kind of usage.
Yeah, I mean, and you brought it up, the whole fact of, sitting on the couch and you're watching the game wherever you are. Let's say you're in New Orleans and you're a Celtics fan, so you're sitting in New Orleans on your couch and your buddy's in Sacramento and sitting on his couch, and yet through this virtual reality you could be sitting together at the game. That's a really cool thing, right? It brings people together. It brings friends together. You talked about such a small percentage of people that will ever be in an NBA arena buying tickets to go to a game, but is this a good thing? That, if we get enough people to like the technology, then, people like yourself that played this game for so long are going to be playing to empty arenas where maybe you can hear the basketball bounce pretty clearly. Where are we in this kind of dance of, you want to make sure that the NBA is moving with technology, you want to be open to certain things, you understand that the majority of your fans are not going to be able to come to the game, maybe they can't afford the game, but how do we balance this? We're not playing to empty arenas while we're also trying to be understanding of the fact that not everybody has the money to come.
Well, we're kind of on the way there now, not the empty arenas part, right? The attendance is terrific and the viewership is terrific. And obviously, ticket pricing will be a factor of, as you said, what's the price point that people will still pay to go.
Right.
But we used to watch games on a tube. Now they got bigger. Then all of a sudden you had a big screen, right? Then they went plasma. Then, now you can buy an 85-inch, ultra high def standing on the court experience for $600 at Best Buy, right? So, it's kind of been evolving that direction already, and I defy you to find somebody who'd rather go back to watching it on their tube. So,
yeah,
it's the experience is getting better and better. The technology is, adds a lot. It's nice to be able to see the shot clock, in the jump circle instead of having to keep looking up and down. For instance, everyone loves the first yard marker, when you're watching football. And they even tried, obviously, with hockey, you couldn't see the puck. They tried to make, these things to make the puck stand out. Didn't go so well, right? It kind of looked fake. So, like I said, the market is pretty good at determining what they like and don't like and where they see the value, like I said, based on what they'll use and what they'll pay for. So, I like watching a game way better on my big screen and in my home theater than, on my tube. So so far that's the way things are going.
That coming here from Danny Schayes, Syracuse and NBA alum on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora here from NBA All-Star Weekend, which is in Indianapolis for this year. Danny, I know we're going to get into a lot of stuff with Syracuse, but I want to keep with the NBA for a second here for you. You're reflecting on your time. I mean, when we look back on it, like you said, all the time that you spent in the NBA and the years that you put in, all the teams that you played for, from Utah to Denver to Milwaukee, as well as to the Lakers, Phoenix, Miami, Orlando. When you go through all that time, and you and I, whenever we're on the show together, we speak about this a little bit, but now that you're in an All-Star weekend again, you're around these current All-Stars, you're around the festivities, you're around former teammates and former adversaries. What memories do get jogged back? What comes back to you about the NBA and your experience? When you experience something like an All-Star weekend, do you have those flashback moments? Do you have those remember whens? And if you do, what are they this time around?
Well, it's funny. I look back to, kind of the start of my experience at All-Star. My rookie year is funny. When I was with the Jazz, I skipped All-Star weekend, and they didn't have the rookie game, so I wouldn't have, and I wasn't an All-Star. I actually flew back to Syracuse for a Georgetown game, thinking I'd be, the returning hero, Here I come from Salt Lake where the snow is all white and fluffy. Get off the plane and, 500-foot cloud ceiling, stepping and walking through slush. It was, and then I ended up having a blizzard, missed my flight back, got fined $500 for missing practice. So that was the last time the one and only time I came back to Syracuse for All-Star break. And it's funny, when All-Star started, it used to be the All-Star game. There was no All-Star weekend. And then that started actually in 1984 in Denver for the All-Star weekend there. The GM there, Carl Scheer, was an old ABA guy, so he brought back this concept of All-Star Weekend. That's when they redid the dunk contest. Larry Nance won the first one, but Dr. J, who is famous for, the foul line dunk in the ABA days, recreated that. He was still near at the end of his career. And that's how All-Star Weekend, the weekend was born. And then they've added over time the three-point and the other events. And they actually used to have an old-timers game. The last time my dad ever played an NBA game was 1985 at the Chicago All-Star. They had the old-timers game, and a bunch of Syracuse guys. Johnny Kerr played, my dad played, and and that was Oscar. It was the actual old-timers. Then what happened is young old guys came in, and instead of having it a fun, exhibition, they started playing hard. A couple guys blew one guy blew his Achilles. Rick Barry, I think, tore his ACL, and that was the end of the old-timers game. And then they went to the skills challenge. So I've watched that evolve over time. They've extended it now, and it used to be like a 4-day break. Now they've made it a full week because the All-Star players never, they wanted to do so much appearances, games, and and they were worn out from the weekend. So now they gave it a few extra days so those guys could rest. And so I've seen that evolve over the years. And again, it's for the retired guys to come in. The hardest thing is to get game tickets because they're you have so much interest. It's hard to carve out 1,000 tickets you really can't, because the league uses it so much for sponsors and fan engagement, that kind of thing. So that's why these secondary events are actually almost more fun than sitting at the game.
Well, and
so there's been that evolution, and they've obviously just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger as a spectacle.
Well, you talk about all those things that are happening besides the game, the dunk contest being one of those pieces. I know how I reflect on history. I know how, what I think about when I think of the dunk contest, and I think of Spud Webb, and I think of Vince Carter being a Raptor fan from when they came out in 1995. How do you view the dunk contest as a guy who's out there who played for so many years? You're a big man. You're closer to the rim than I am by many miles, Mr. Schayes. So how do you view the dunk contest and what it looks like right now?
It's funny. It's one of those things that ebbs and flows. Some years the superstars take it seriously. And there were the years that Jordan and Dominique were battling it out, and then you have Vince Carter, those guys coming in, and really taking it seriously and taking the pride, putting on a show. Then you had a couple of years where nobody wanted to do it, and they had a bunch of guys you never heard of.
Yeah.
Then you had, I think the Aaron Gordon year where he came in second was, where, that's where he did the 360 with the mascot, right, with the, grabbing the ball out of the mascot's hand on the way. I mean, super innovative, right? And so I always love watching it. To see some new stuff. You sit there and go, how can they come up with new stuff? Everyone's seen everything by now. But it's a lot of fun. The 3-point contest this year, the wrinkle, they're bringing it, the Steph Curry match, right? And so that's going to be fun. The women's NBA showdown. Because Steph lost his crown, so that'll be fun. Again, just trying to make new, innovative things, and the game itself has also ebbed and flowed. In my era, the guys who played took pride in I'm going to beat the crap out of you.
Yeah.
Now it's more of just like a show dunk contest, right? It's not not as engaging as a game. So they made a few changes. They put the elam ending in last year, I think, right? And that was a success. So again, it's a constant evolution, based on the times. But it's just a great experience, fun weekend.
You talk about the 3-point. I mean, we know the 3-point contest has been around for a really long time. Having the 3-point contest and then having a separate Steph Curry versus someone in the 3-point challenge and being Sabrina this year, What does that do for it? And did you ever think that there was going to be a player in the NBA that would command to have their own individual three-point challenge?
Well, I think it's great, actually. Number one, it's going to give great visibility to the women's game, which is a great thing. I mean, the women's NBA, the women's game has really evolved, and it's gotten so engaging, and they have so many great stars now. It's something that I love watching the women's games. You see the crop of college stars coming up. It really bodes well for that in the future. So I think from the visibility standpoint, it's great. Again, this is something you're looking for, and something engaging. Steph being the greatest long distance shooter ever, losing his crown, and now having the women challenger. So I think it's great. I'm excited to watch it. Otherwise they've again had to put in wrinkles, right? Putting in the 4-point shots, trying to make something new, and sometimes you throw stuff out and see what sticks.
Yeah, and with all these different things going on, like you said, it's not just the All-Star game anymore. There's a lot of different pieces here that get fans involved. There's the HBCU Classic as well. That's Winston-Salem State versus Virginia Union. What do you think that does? I mean, that's going to be this Saturday, February 17th. The HBCU Classic side of things, a focus on historically black colleges and universities that they've tried to take in professional sports, at least in these last few years. Just what that does, what dynamic that brings, and how you feel that can accentuate the All-Star Weekend.
I just think that all these things can bring a new attention and focus, right? And I think that's great for the HBCUs to have kind of this feature game and get historically they've been a little bit lost in just the pageantry of the NCAA tournament. And so it's just nice to have an opportunity for them to get featured as well. And again, it just brings more more dynamism, a larger state of dynamism to the game itself. So now that you got, like I said, you have the women's league involvement, you got some of the college involvements. So much talk around NIL and some of these pain in the butt things. It's nice to have some positive stories around it.
Yeah, and the other one I wanted to mention here, I know there's a ton of stuff going on, but I want to get to Syracuse here. When we look at the celebrity game, and we have a Team Shannon and Team Stephen A, and interesting here, looking at this, how it's all set up here, the 2024 All-Star Celebrity Game rosters, Shannon Sharp and 50 Cent on one side as coaches, Stephen A with Lil Wayne and Aja Wilson. And then I'm looking at some of these names here with Micah Parsons as well. There's names on here that I couldn't tell you who these people are. But Jennifer Hudson, CJ Stroud's going to be involved, Meta World Peace. When you see, kind of that side of it, the All-Star Celebrity Game, I know they've tried different things. I know they had those moments where the hoop was so high, or they put like a higher one above a lower one. There was different point shots depending on where you shot on the court. Is the celebrity game, does that have value to you? Do you think that they should do some of these wacky and wily things and make people shoot from higher up? Do you want to see rappers and comedians on the court? How do you view this stuff?
Again, it's just a different angle to do stuff. I like to see, like one of the things for the court, right? We talked about putting the LED screen down on the floor.
Yeah.
So one of the things you can do is make it interactive, right? In these kind of games, you can have fans interacting with the court and putting. There's a company called Hotspots, which is is one of the U.S. companies that does this, and they have a scenario where fans can interact and put targets on the court that pop up during the game for a bonus shot here, and you run over and shoot from there, or they can make the 3-point line go in and out, on demand, or widen the lane, or all those things you can do on the court. I thought it might be fun to go to the free throw line and visually look down and the trap door opens and you're standing on a pool of sharks. Who knows what you can do, right? Just make these fun things there's lots of traditional basketball games if you want to watch that. There's the dunk contest if you want to watch that. And to have these kind of different fun things to go meet different celebrities, watch them out of their elements, playing ball, the old pigs on roller skates trick. And, I think that all these things have their place. And, just different ways to engage and keep the fans interested and do some fun things.
So a final note on that for the NBA, when you look at what the All-Star has become. It's not a weekend, it's a week, and it continues, over time to extend itself. Is there value in today's NBA in being named an All-Star, knowing that, like you said, I mean, it's just kind of going out there and no defense and throwing the ball up and taking threes and dunking the ball, and it's slow motion type of thing, and not, people aren't really out there trying to take it seriously. There's games that you and I have seen where things were taken seriously. You may have very well been a part of moments that were taken seriously. So, what is the value of being called an NBA All-Star in today's NBA?
Well, it's not obviously the game, right? The game is the game, but the All-Star is it's an award for being one of the top players in the league. Absolutely a thrill for the players, and it's again a different way to engage your now teammates, right? Who are your competitors the rest of the time. So it's something that, it makes a fun break during the year. It's a long season, 8 games, plus playoffs and preseason, so it's a fun break. So, again, it adds a lot of value, and if it's something that, you just enjoy kind of the differentness, the pageantry, the fun, to do a lot of fan experiences here locally, to, engage with actual human beings,
Yeah.
Which is nice. Like I said, it's just just fun way. I personally like we actually try to win the game stuff versus, 192 to 184, just throw the ball up, and shoot 500 threes. But again, it ebbs and flows. Maybe we'll get back to that. Like I said, the Elam ending made a difference last year. So we'll see how it goes, and we're just here to enjoy the weekend.
Coming here from Syracuse, an NBA alum and great, in my opinion, Danny Schayes, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Danny, to take a look at Syracuse, your alma mater, and obviously hometown, when we look back on your JD days and your connection to this community that you and I both have a lot of appreciation for. Syracuse coming off of defeating North Carolina earlier this week. I was on site at this game. North Carolina, number 1 in the ACC going into the game. They're still first in the ACC with a record of 11-3. Their only 3 losses in the ACC are all to unranked teams: at Georgia Tech, Clemson at home, and at Syracuse. Syracuse, in my opinion, and in the opinion of Chris Bell as well after the game, this is the best 40 minutes, a full and complete 40 minutes that Syracuse has played all season long. Looking back on that, I mean, we've seen this team go up and down. We've seen them struggle. We've seen them lose to this same North Carolina team by 30 on the road. What have you seen in Syracuse in this evolution of a very young team in Adrian Autry's first year? Where are they at right now when you take an analytical look at Syracuse coming off of their biggest victory of the season?
Well, clearly they played great against Carolina. The guard play was terrific. I mean, to watch JJ and Judah Mintz, the way they get to the rim, making shots, stretching the defense. Obviously I've been personally disappointed to see the center guys go down with injury just because, as a center, I like to see that dynamic. They've adjusted well.
Yeah. And,
Brown's playing great. I think that, you're seeing your Copeland, for instance, step up and make more plays since, the Benny Williams issue. So you've got, kind of, if anything, they're really kind of like settling into a rotation. And I think that's part of it. Obviously, the offense is going to be driven by the guards. And they've done a nice job of both scoring and distributing, right? So they're not, both just jacking up shots left and right. Defensively, they played well. They work on the boards, even though they're not without their bigs, not as physical a team, right? There aren't, the ACC is not super physical with bigs right now, so they can get away with it. Really, I kind of think the 3-point line is the one thing that could be a make or break moving forward. But I think what you're really seeing is the, kind of the chemistry, coming together as, events have forced a, shorter rotation. You're having less guys playing more minutes. And so, the positive side is guys know they're not going to get the hook. They're not coming in and out. I love, Adrian as a coach and mixing it up, kind of still discovering what works and what needs work, right? The zone was effective the other night, but I like the way they play man-to-man, too. When, my era, we were an NBA style, so it's a lot of man-to-man, less zone.
Yeah.
I like the way they're getting out on the break. I think that's going to be a big weapon for them because, number one, their guards penetrate so well, but they got a lot of guys getting out of the ball. So, I like the way the team's coming together. You expect them to be up and down, new coach, new players. And like I said, with the, in and out of injuries to their bigs and Benny leaving. So there's been a bunch of transition, but I think that, Adrian's really brought the focus to, energy, effort, and you saw that one differentiator in Carolina, their effort was superior.
Yeah, and you bring up the fact of, Benny Williams' dismissal. What was your kind of thought coming off of that? Because Jim Boeheim didn't allow him to play at one point last season. Adrian this season, he was available, not available, available, not available, available, not available. It was a very unique situation with Benny where you didn't really know what was going on. There wasn't a lot of clarity to it, and he would just kind of show back up, be back on the floor. You go in the post-game press conference, you talk to him about the game, and then you didn't know if he was going to be on the floor for the next game. I've never experienced that, so
I'm not privy to anything else, so there's nothing for me to say in the specifics. But clearly, there was a level of disruption there that Adrian had enough of, and it was one of those addition by subtractions, and obviously, it's as the coach, he needed to put his foot down. As you mentioned, the in and outs of the lineup obviously showed that there were. It wasn't a one-time thing, right? There was a history that finally got too much, and Adrian made the call. I mean, it's got total respect for him for doing that. It's a tough line to walk because guys are working hard and the scholarship, and it's a big life event for Benny. But Adrian's bigger vision is for the team. So. I got tons of respect for the entire coaching staff. I'd love to see what they're doing this year, and excited to see what comes next.
And being a big, when we look at that, one of the reasons why I mentioned Benny and, Malik Brown having to play out of position and really has done so much. Naheem McLeod going down the 7-foot-plus footer on Syracuse coming in from Florida State. And Peter Carey, we found out a couple games ago, undisclosed injury. Munir Hima doesn't get a lot of time. Got 6 minutes and 27 seconds in the game against North Carolina. Didn't record any stats. So as a big man and as a big man in Syracuse's history, what would you like to see? I know we're in the midst of the 2023-24 season, but stepping forward, that center position is going to be a big area of focus, and especially now maybe more than many years prior here in recent history. They've had an issue at having a dominant guy. When we look back to the Danny Schayes days and we look to your father, Dolph, we look to all of this, history. We look to Billy Owens, we look to John Wallace, we look to, Derek Coleman and whatnot. The inside play and the ability and just taking over a game type of player, that's not something we've seen at Syracuse in a very long time. Rakeem Christmas played out of position, did a pretty nice job. But where does Syracuse step forward? Because I feel that everything that's gone on, and obviously you can't control injury and the dismissal of a player the way that it happened with Benny is unique. But where do they go from here, knowing that the inside of this team, offensively and defensively, obviously has a hole that needs to be filled?
Well, it does. I mean, Malik Brown's done a terrific job of filling it on the offensive end. He's great going to the offensive glass, picking up bonus baskets, what you used to call garbage baskets. Kadir Copeland has really impressed me with his inside passing. And, all their bigs. Chris Bell is, they've done a nice job running high lows, getting their bigs involved that way. And, obviously getting to the offensive glass is kind of by committee, right? They're bigs, they're, 4s and 5s, right? They're semi-bigs. Do a good job of just keeping balls alive. And the biggest thing is they need to rebound by committee. They need all 5 guys on the glass You're seeing that. Guards are staying in to get long rebounds, digging balls out. And that's something that they're going to have to focus on with basically five-man rebounding, right? And where the old days, you just work on have your 4 and 5, from when Derek and Ronnie were there. When you had bigs, Arenze over the years, right? You had these bigs who could kind of dominate the center spot. That they won't have that, so they'll have to make up for that. They'll kind of go into every game being the underdog on the boards, and they'll just have to make up for it for hustle and opportunity. And I think so far they've done a pretty good job. Like I said, especially the inside passing. They've really done a nice job of running high lows, and getting real deliberate about getting the ball inside and getting to the free throw line.
Yeah, and you mentioned getting out, the way that the guards have been getting out in transition. It's something that we haven't seen in a while at Syracuse is the guards to be able to move on those fast breaks so well, to make good decisions. Quadir Copeland told me at the end of last season when we were in Greensboro in the locker room after Syracuse had lost in the ACC tournament, he made it clear to me. I said, hey, you're written down as a combo guard, so you could play shooting guard, you could play point guard. And he said, no, I came here to play point guard. I'm a point guard, plain and simple. I came to Syracuse to play point guard. We've seen him not only make good passes and take shots at certain times and be able to move in transition. He was a part of a game-winning shot on a three. He was also a part of a game winner on a goaltend, which was unique, and I'd never seen that before. Quadir Copeland has really, in my opinion, become the point guard of this team, even though it's written down as Judah Mintz. What's your take on the backcourt? I know you mentioned Quadir a couple times. Is he the point guard of the future? Is he the guy that you can trust with the ball in his hands, knowing that this sophomore has done some really good things on this team?
I see him more valuable as a three,
okay,
as a point. And let me explain, because you've got two guards who handle the ball well, and because they've done such a good job of scoring, you're going to see them become more and more of a focus of opposing teams' defensive schemes. And for Quadir Copeland to step up and be that wild card guy, right? What it does, it makes where you can't over-focus on Judah and JJ, because now, then Quadir goes wild, right? And he just, because he's got the level of ball handling that he does, can shoot it, get to the rim, make inside passes, right? He, to me, is kind of the extra guy, the wild card guy that makes the difference. Great teams have that, right? Very few teams are going to win are going to go very far with just their star carrying the load. And, the teams that are really successful have that extra factor, right? That, that extra it factor of a guy who can be super versatile, who can make big plays, who can take pressure off your ball handlers, who can, be that we can't double team in the post because the guy makes every shot guy, right? You need that balance to make it so the defenses have to play honest. And I think he can be that guy, which is a huge value.
We know that we're going to have Jim Boeheim Day coming up not this Saturday, but next Saturday, February 24th at noon Eastern Time. Syracuse will take on Notre Dame inside of the Dome, and they will honor Jim Boeheim, this being the first time in almost 50 years he hasn't been on the sideline as the head coach of the Orange. How do you honor Jim Boeheim? I know you're planning on coming back, but just when you think back on Jimmy B, just how you honor him, what you think of him, and what you want people to know about him, because it seems like in all the years that I've broadcasted and really grown up in Syracuse, my whole life, everyone's had an opinion about Jim Boeheim. Everyone's kind of tried to speak for him at times, and I'd love to get your thoughts on, as we honor Jim Boeheim, who he is to you.
Well, to me, Jim Boeheim is Syracuse basketball. He's been there the entire life cycle of the modern era, and there's so few programs that have that. I don't know any program can approach it. Krzyzewski maybe, Dean Smith maybe, a guy who's identified so strongly with a quality program. But for Coach Boeheim, to play here, assistant coach forever, still be around, to be a Syracuse guy. Syracuse. isn't the kind of town where there's a lot of Syracuse guys, right? There's a special relationship because he's grew up in the area, played here, been here, and he's a guy you couldn't imagine going to the pros to coach, or you couldn't imagine going to a different school, right? I mean, he is Syracuse basketball, and I think he'll always be, identified as that. So it's, you don't think of, like I said, you don't think of Syracuse basketball without Jim Boeheim. And, it's funny, even, through my whole career, then 10 years after, then 20 years after, I still go back and my old coach is still on the bench, right? It's like, where can you have that kind of continuity? We used to joke he's our Queen Elizabeth. Nobody alive who's under, who's under 55 remembers a time that Jim Boeheim wasn't the coach. And, so it's something that is incredibly unique and special to Syracuse.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, it was so long that you finish up at Syracuse and you look back 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, he's still there, and now. Well,
I played 18 years, then retired for 25 years. He's still there.
Right, and
then how many football coaches have they gone through since then?
Right. Absolutely.
30? I don't know.
And now, I mean, as you say that, you make that note, which, I mean, like I said, for me, it was unique. It was different too. I mean, the head coach for 47 years. I'm 38, so my entire life has been Jim Boeheim on the sideline. That's all I knew growing up as a kid. Watching the games, you see Jim. Going to the games, you see Jim. Going out in public, walking through the airport as a little kid, and there's Jim Boeheim, and then interviewing him for the majority of my career here, and sitting in his office with him, and being on a court with him, being off of a golf course, talking to him in a parking lot. He's the coach that I know. At the same time, I've built a relationship and gotten to know Adrian over the years. We did a show together a few years ago. So as much as we talk about how, Boeheim was just there, and all the times that you played in, all the years you played in the NBA and all of your retirement years, you look back, he's still there. That's unheard of anywhere. Now he's not. So how surreal is that to you, number one? And number two, what do you think about Adrian Autry's job so far?
I think Adrian's doing a great job. I'll work backwards.
Okay.
And the fact that Adrian had been there for a dozen years, and Jerry, and the whole staff there, Griff, they've got that continuity, and I think that Jim has been obviously just such a great presence on the program, and I think that it is time for that chapter is closed, and now Adrian's here as, like I said, kind of like, but the story is similar, right? He played ball there, assistant coach there, now the head coach there, associated with the program for a long time. So it's not like they brought some guy fresh in from another somewhere. So I like the continuity, and obviously, Adrian gets the Syracuse basketball mentality and the fans and relationship and all that, and he's a Syracuse basketball guy. So, I like the transition. I think he's doing a great job. Seeing the team grow from the beginning of the year, and now we're at this kind of inflection point after that big win. Looking forward to see what happens next. And it was just my first time seeing him in person. I've watched him play on TV all year, but looking forward to getting to see him in action.
Yeah, and I want to go here really quick with you, Danny. I mentioned your father, Dolph, and obviously, his time at NYU, his time at Syracuse with the Syracuse Nationals, and having the opportunity to be drafted by two different teams and have an opportunity to kind of figure out what he wanted to do and where he wanted to go, and decided to go with the Syracuse Nationals and win a championship back in 1955. The New York Knicks and the Syracuse Nationals both looking at your dad after his time at NYU. So we think of Syracuse now. I mean, when I talk about Syracuse history, Dolph is a part of that because he played in the city, but his history was different. His history being with an NBA franchise that became the Philadelphia 76ers that we know today, and the Syracuse Nationals in the mid-50s winning a national championship How do you reflect upon that and the fact that, your father is a piece of history that will always ring true in Syracuse, and such a unique part of history because we don't have that team anymore. I wasn't here to see the team. I wasn't alive at the time, but I think about the Syracuse Nationals a lot, and I wish we still had that. So to know that your dad got to hoist a title for this city, and you both played basketball in Syracuse, but he did it in a unique way that we've never been able to experience again because of the moving of the franchise. Just what that story means.
Well, when my dad came out of NYU, it was 1948. The NBA was not official yet. There were still two leagues, the BAA, the Basketball Association of America, and the NBL, the National Basketball League. And so the Knicks and Syracuse played in different leagues at the time. That's why they had different drafts.
Yeah.
Then the NBA officially was formed in 49 the next year. And then, of course, the biggest contribution Syracuse has, not only winning the championship for the small city, but also the advent of the 24-second clock. I still consider that the greatest innovation in sports. It saved the NBA. That's something that is Syracuse specific. Danny Schayes, the owner, who I was named after, was the brainchild behind it. It was adopted here in Syracuse. And, so it's something that is Syracuse not only will have that part of history, the Nationals, which, is kind of now in the record books, but the 24-second clock lives on. And that will always be, really, like I said, the most significant, for me, rule change in sports, save the game. So that's also part of the Syracuse history. So it's interesting to be on both sides, on the college side and on the pro side. Obviously, the Sixers now carry on the red, white, and blue, the Americana of the Syracuse franchise, that same kind of feel. And they're a fun team to watch. It's great to still be a part of it.
What if your dad was here right now, and I had the opportunity to meet Dolph years ago at Cam's Pizzeria on the Lemoyne campus when it was there at the time, and shaking his hand and looking at his hand and looking at my hand, which looked like a baby's hand, in his hand. When I think about those moments and you meet someone of the caliber of your father and, the Floyd Littles and Jim Browns and so on and so forth of the world, and Danny, I'd put you in that category too of this larger than life and connection to my hometown of Syracuse. What do you think Dolph would say if he was watching the game today, sitting with you today, and he's there with you in Indianapolis, and your guys are just watching some college games, taking in some NBA? What do you think he would say?
Well, he was always a big fan of what he used to call hot potato basketball, right? So that is, high tempo, passing game, freelance, what he used to call the city game. And so I think he'd like the game today. The biggest difference, obviously, is the three-point line. Did not exist in his era, although he was a long-distance shooter and was known for that. I mean, they used to joke that he used to shoot threes for free back then. And so I think he personally, if he was playing, would have loved the three-point line. But, I think that's probably, as far as the biggest innovation change of the game, because it's become such an integral part of the play. That would be the biggest difference. But, he always loved coming to NBA events to kind of not just, recapture the glory, but be part of what was the greatest time of his life. Loved the Nationals, loved the city, loved being part of it. He took pride in having his name in the phone book. Super accessible, as you mentioned. You see him in a pizza spot, in a donut shop, walking around town. He just loved being part of the community. Coming from New York City, from the Bronx, to come up to sleepy Syracuse in the 50s and make it his home for the rest of his life is, something that, like I said, he took a lot of pride in.
Yeah, absolutely. Here with Danny Schayes on Wake Up Call, Syracuse and NBA great. Danny, final note, I'd be wrong, in my opinion, if I didn't ask you this because it's on my mind all the time, and I respect the amount of years that you played in the NBA, and I always respect how you break down the game and just analyze sports and life in general here on the show, and it's always an honor to have you. It's a tribute to me to have you not only to talk about basketball, but a lot of different things. I struggle with today's NBA of the resting. And I mean, I remember when they would rest Tim Duncan or Tony Parker, and they're like, are we going to find the San Antonio Spurs for this? Can they prove that this guy is hurt? Can they do, whatever, back then it was, how are you resting a guy? How can you rest a guy? Now we see this and I always tell this story, and I'll tell a short version of it, but I say, okay, let's say I'm growing up, I'm a little kid, and my dad knows that I'm a big fan of Steph Curry. So I want to see Steph, and Steph's on the other coast. So my dad says, okay, we're going to save up money, son, but it's in today's world. So I'm a kid right now, for argument's sake, in 2024. So we have to get across country. So we get round trip tickets, let's say it costs $1,000 total. Then we got to stay at a hotel for 2 nights. Let's say that's going to cost us $600. So now it's $1,600. I get a jersey from my dad going to the game. He wanted me to be able to wear Steph's jersey. So now we're at just a little bit under $1,800. We get food. Now we're at $2,000. We have to have an Uber bring us back and forth. Now we've put ourselves at, let's say $2,300. We get to the game. We got to buy the tickets to the game. They're $100 a piece. So now we spent $2,500 for just a couple days on the West Coast. And we find out that Steph Curry is totally fine, totally healthy. He's just resting today. And now we've come all the way across the country to see my favorite player for $2,500, and I get to see the back of his head the whole game while he sits on the sideline. What's your take on today's NBA, the resting, and guys not playing? I mean, Jordan played with the flu, for goodness sakes. What's your take on the resting that we have now?
Well, it certainly wasn't an issue in my era. Guys played through things. The season was much more compressed. I mean, it was like in our era, it wasn't unusual to have 22 to 24 sets of back-to-back games. It was kind of like every week you played Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday kind of thing. Especially if you had one of those arenas that shared with hockey, you're kind of locked into the schedule. I'm not a fan of that. Obviously, the NBA is not either. They've had to put in actually rules that the players are required to play certain specialty games. For instance, the West Coast teams going east because they only get there the one time a year. You've got national TV games. They've got, they got it regulated now, which to me is it's kind of a black eye for the players. To me, that's definitely a thing that's not good in my mind. I mean, for them, today's players, 65 games is a full season, and they're talking about, well, we should shorten the season. I'm like, why would you want to do that, right? I mean, I'm not a fan. Like I said, I'm not a fan of that. I understand you want to beat your peak in the playoffs, but in today's world of the ability to private planes and health advances in healthcare and all the things going on around that. I mean, there's certainly capability of play. So I'm not a fan of guys sitting down. I mean, I think I read a stat which was mind-boggling. Like only 11 players played all 82 games last year out of 400. I may have the number wrong, but it was an exceedingly small number.
Yeah.
Actually played all 82 games, and that to me is I know from the league side that's a big pain in their side because again, as you mentioned, it's a commitment to get to a game, and you want to see your guys in action.
Yeah, I mean, and I would say of that short list of those few players that played all 82, they're probably not your superstars. So that's the other side of it too. Danny Schayes, as always, appreciate having you here on the broadcast. Appreciate everything you have done for Syracuse, continue to do for Syracuse, and hopefully when you come into town for Jim Boeheim Day, you and I can have a few moments in the Dome face-to-face. It's definitely been great to talk with you on the air, but always love the FaceTime, and just want to thank you and thank your family for the dedication that many generations have given here, what Dolph did for this community, what you've done for this community, and what you continue to do to just excel in so many levels on and off the court really is a tribute to all the work that you put in. It's a tribute to what you do now and the connection back to Syracuse and the passion that you have for Syracuse. I appreciate with it being my hometown. So I never know how to say goodbye, Danny, because I always appreciate the time that we talk. So thank you for your time.
Happy to be there for you, Dan. Have a great day, and let's enjoy the weekend.
Sounds good. Enjoy All-Star Weekend. Have fun in Indy, and get a couple All-Star jackets for your make sure you make sure you got what you need for your family for the All-Star way. So I definitely can.
Let's go Orange.
All right, take care. Be well.
You bet.
Take
Bye.
care. See you. That coming from Danny Schayes once again here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. And Indy, I don't think is that bad right now, right? It's cool in Syracuse. I'm going to take a look at where we're at in Syracuse right now, weather-wise. See, because when you're in the studio and in the office, you're like, I know it's cold, but I don't know how cold it is. It's 26 degrees outside right now. Severe weather warning in advisory until 9:30 on Friday, February 16th. There is a wind advisory. I could hear the wind last night. There's a 70% chance of snow today. Supposed to get up to 37, down to 16. Tomorrow, 40% chance of snow, 33, low of 26. And for some reason, I remember in school, if the high and the low are almost the same number, that's not good. That could mean that there's weather when the high for the day and the low for the day are around the same region. I don't know why I'm thinking of that. I could be drastically wrong, but that's just something that I feel like I've learned in school. But it's 26 degrees right now, so bundle up, stay safe, stay warm, and keep listening to Wake Up Call. We have so much coming up here in hour number 2 with my buddy Ross Turetsky. We're going to be joined by Ross in just a few moments after the fast break. Ross and I will be picture in picture. He gets his crack at speaking on Super Bowl 58. We had DT and Murphy, Brendan Murphy speaking with me on it. Papa Joe, who's typically with us on Thursday, joined us a day earlier yesterday to speak on the Super Bowl 58, as well as the Chiefs and the Niners, and Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan, as well as taking a look at Brock Purdy. So a lot of great conversation to be had throughout the week, and I wanted to make sure that we got Ross on here to give his thoughts and his angle on how he views what's going on in the NFL right now as we move forward in the Chiefs dynasty, a dynasty that I saw coming when they won their second Super Bowl, and so that to me, a second one I should say, with Pat Mahomes there, and that one was against San Francisco. So looking back on that time and seeing that, or the first one might have been against, they all blend together at the the Chiefs' history. It's so great because in my head it's like they're just there all the time. But when you look at the Chiefs, let's take a look at this here. So their second one was against Philadelphia, pardon me, but they're in 2019 when they won the Super Bowl against the San Francisco 49ers. I look back at that and I'm like, okay, so he's won a Super Bowl so early in his career. If he wins another one, then what are we saying? If he has two, then are we thinking toward him being one of the best ever? And are we looking at, how are we looking at the history of the Chiefs? Now that they've won three, we have definitely seen a dynasty. We are watching a dynasty. I think this dynasty is young, so we have the opportunity to watch it grow. And there's a lot of great stuff coming up because Ross and I are going to talk about that. We're also going to get into Major League Baseball and him preparing for the first year that he has ever been a collegiate head coach. Luzerne County Community College, the Trailblazers, he is their head baseball coach, and we're getting closer and closer to the season, so we'll get his take on it right after this on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville beats. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you. Looking for your next ride? Look no further than Great Lakes Honda City, located on 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Serving our community for decades, their new and pre-owned vast array of vehicles are available to you Monday through Saturday on site. To search from home, shop at GreatLakesHondaCity.com. Call 315-365-5576 to set up an appointment. That's 315-365-5576 for Great Lakes Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard in Liverpool, New York. Great cars, great people, Great Lakes.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there, and of course you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100, and also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, hanging out with you where sports truly meets that thing called life. We appreciate you being here every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And here with us on YouTube.com, Facebook.com, both /WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com for live internet streaming radio. Appreciate everybody that is connected with us on our social media as well. On Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, X at CallDT, and Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT. So however you've been with the show, we thank you so much for hanging out with us, of course, on WakeUpCallDT.com and on that YouTube channel on YouTube.com /WakeUpCallDT. It is freezing outside. So it is very cold outside, folks. So it's, sometimes when we take a little step aside, take a little fast break, you gotta take care of some stuff in the office and the studio. And I got a feeling of the gust of air I shouldn't even say the gust of air because there was no wind. So I don't want to call the wind to come out because that wind is fierce, but it's definitely cold. Okay. I wouldn't suggest that you go outside, without pants. I think you should probably wear a few jackets. This might be a day where you wear a couple pairs of socks, but I will tell you this. This is actually opening day for women's lacrosse at Lemoyne. It's their return to Division I. They're one of two programs at Lemoyne that was Division I before Lemoyne became a Division I institution this past year going into 2023-24. So before Lemoyne was a fully fledged Division I institution, which just happened, we had women's lacrosse and baseball as Division I teams, despite the fact that Lemoyne as a school was a Division II institution. So they're returning to Division I. They're doing it today. It's 26 degrees outside. The sun is shining. Got to push some snow off of the field, but women's, and here's the crazy thing, and this is a huge competitive advantage, hopefully, for the Lemoyne Dolphins, they're hoping, is that the team that is playing them in their return to Division I, the California Golden Bears, coming from the West Coast, having to play in a game like this. So excited for that. That's at 1 o'clock at Ted Grant Field. Come out and see it. And then tonight, inside, warm it up, keep it toasty, as the men's basketball team will face off against CCSU inside of Ted Grant Court at 7 o'clock today at Lemoyne. So awesome stuff coming up today, and that includes the picture-in-picture that I have for you right now. Ross Turetsky joining me, fellow broadcaster and writer, and also the head coach of the Luzerne County Community College baseball program, the Trailblazers. We're here to talk with you about that. I need a hat now. We're here to talk with you about that. We're here to talk with you about Major League Baseball being 5 seconds away. We talk about lacrosse and how lacrosse has to push the snow off and play. Well, baseball might have to do the same thing. And we do know that spring training, the beauty of it is the teams, 30 MLB franchises, they split, and some of them go to Arizona, some of them go to Florida, but they're all in hopeful good weather situations. I know in Florida this week it was mid-50s, so we shall see. We're also going to talk about the NFL. So a lot of great stuff coming up. Long intro, but well needed because there's so many things we'll be discussing here. Mr. Turetsky, how are you?
Very good. Speaking of cold, that's where I was. I was outside like an insane nut job, and I was running outside. I had to get my fitness in while my son's at school. I went for a run for about 40 minutes. It's invigorating. You're frozen for the first 5 minutes. Then you warm up and you become a little delirious from all the cold. But, people look at me like, you're insane. You're going to freeze to death out here. Even the dogs don't want to go for walks out there in my neighborhood. But I got to get my fitness in. And, hey, spring training's here. In my mind, I see video on MLB Network of pitchers and catchers throwing a ball with palm trees in the background. That means warm weather's coming soon. The cold weather's almost done. And positive, good things are happening in the near future. So, gotta stay positive in these cold days with just one more month to go in winter, and then spring is here. So you gotta think about that. Soon, flowers will come back, warmer weather, longer sunlight, daylight hours, and we're almost there. Baseball's back.
Yeah, and I feel like I've taught my listeners and my viewers well, because Greg just wrote, it's definitely a wear pants day. So, because they know there's some days where, listen, and if you're a homeowner, you don't have to wear pants in your house, right? But out of your house, you probably should wear some pants. I mean,
It
it
could be
depends.
Matthew McConaughey playing the bongos, and he got arrested for doing that because he was also out. I think he was totally buck naked, like out in his lawn. So people complained. So you
Right.
never know.
Well, and here's the thing, though. I mean, if you're on your lawn, and well, I guess, okay, I'm going to put it to you like this. If you're on your front lawn and you're naked, then that's probably a no.
Yeah.
If you're in your backyard and you're fenced in and you're naked, well, your neighbors are just being nosy. That's how I look at it.
Well, yeah, because how the heck are they looking into there? If there's if there's something to block the view, you should be able to do whatever the heck you want. You should be totally free as a jaybird. If you're outside in the front yard where everyone can see, that's a little bit frowned upon.
Right.
Unless you're in a nudist colony, whatever happens there. It's like Vegas. Whatever happens there stays in Vegas.
Yeah, and this is how I look at it. I mean, I'm a firm believer, and like we just talked about it, I'm happy you and I agree. But if I'm in my backyard and I'm fenced in, then, all is fair. If I'm out in front and I'm just kind of waving to, the garbage truck going by and the mail people and whatever, probably not a good idea. But if you want to wear no pants in your backyard, you have yourself a day, ladies and gentlemen. Just make sure. I mean, but we live in a world now where there's drones, and I mean, think about how creepy and weird people are. There could be a teenage kid who's got a drone, and there's an attractive mom that lives 3 blocks over, and he picks that drone up and he puts it out there because he knows that she goes and sunbathes at 4:00 in the afternoon. That's why I feel like people should not be there should not be a human being direct access to robots. There shouldn't be robots at all, because I've seen way too many movies to know.
Haven't you seen the Terminator? They're going to turn against us. So be careful all that AI technology everyone's so excited about.
Well, yeah, and we were talking about it in hour number 1 with Danny Schayes. I mean, there's a positive side and there's another side to it. But there's 2 things that I don't believe humanity should have, like the typical average human being should have access to: robots and explosives. And, because when we think about it, it's like no time the whole year does anybody say, here's an M80, go ahead and do what you want to do with it. But during the 4th of July, they say, hey, here's a bunch of drunk people. We're going to give them explosives and hope to God that, they can shoot it off toward the air and not toward someone's house or toward the neighbor's dog, or, and hopefully people's houses aren't on fire and you still have...
Or themselves. Do you remember Jason Pierre-Paul?
Jason
He was
Pierre-Paul.
missing a digit from that, yeah. Great football player, great pass rusher on the defense side of the ball. That happens all the time. I was warned as a young child by my mom saying that she had a boss named Arnold, and he was able to balance a basketball on a finger, but right next to that pointer finger was a missing finger from a July 4th mishap. So stay away from fireworks. It scared the crap out of me to this day. So it was very effective. She scared me straight, and I don't want to go anywhere near fireworks. I want to watch fireworks from a nice, safe distance, but I don't want to go anywhere where it's physically anywhere near my body.
Yeah, and see, I learned things as a kid, close relationship with God, and also good teaching from my parents and my grandparents. Whenever I was anywhere and I was with a bunch of kids and their parents gave them explosives or they went and got them from the garage, I always kind of was like, no, thank you. Just kind of moved myself away from it. I want to be okay in this respect. But yeah, I think that humanity as kind of a general compass, we should not be allowed to have robots and explosives, because I think that there's a select few people on this planet that maybe, I shouldn't say a select few. I think there's a lot of people on this planet that are honest and have good hearts. I think there's more good than bad in this world. I just think the bad goes out and it likes to scream, where the good doesn't feel like it has to tell you it's good. Because if you are good, you should never have to say it. So all I'm saying is, even me, who has morals and values and believes in God, I don't want a robot, because this is my feeling. And this could be crazy or it could be whatever. But a robot is supposed to be like human. I've watched enough movies about dolls and ventriloquist dummies that I actually said to my ex-wife, when for our wedding, someone bought her a doll, and I was like, number one, it's our wedding. That has nothing to do with me. A lot of people bought her gifts, and then I got the silver. I was like, what did I get? They're like, you got the silverware. I'm like, that's for us. You got the napkins? That's for us. She got a chair that looked like it was in a hair salon. She got this doll. So the doll, I told her, I said, leave the doll in the hotel room. Leave it for somebody
Well, yeah,
else.
because that thing's gonna turn on you. You bring
Right.
that back to your house. That thing, when you're in the middle of the night, how are you gonna sleep without one eye open? That thing's gonna try to stab you in your sleep. I wouldn't trust that.
See, this is why Ross and I are best friends, because he understands me. So this is my thing. I said, leave it here in the hotel. You know, I don't want it. I feel bad for anybody that comes in here, the unsuspecting stranger that walks into this room and sees this doll. But leave the doll here. And now I'm going to go to a hotel. There's going to be a doll there. But here's my thing. I was like, just leave it here, not because I want God. Let me clarify. Let me clean my karma, clean my heart. I didn't want to leave the doll to scare someone. I told her, leave the doll here in the room, or put it in the trash, or whatever you need to do, because if you bring it to the house, then no matter what we do to it and how we could break it in pieces, we could put their pieces, you know, all over the country, we can drive their pieces across the border, but once it knows the house, it's got a blueprint in its head, it's cased the joint, and it'll find its way back. So she doesn't say anything about this. I'm waiting. No big deal. I'm in the garage, and I think she asked me to look for something years ago when I was married, and this is a reason why we're divorced. No, I'm kidding, it's not. But I went into the garage.
Throw that doll in the garbage. That's what I would have done. Once she's not looking, I would have thrown that right in the dumpster.
Well, so I'm in the garage, and I open up one of the travel containers, and the doll is just sitting like that, just in the box. And I went inside, and I went, excuse me, why is there a doll outside? She's like, oh, yeah, you know, you could bring it. I was like, no. I said, let me tell you something. I told you not to bring it to the house because it could case the joint. But because it's been inside of this travel box for the whole time, it's only seen the lid of the travel box. It hasn't seen where it's gone. And now it knows the garage, but it doesn't know the inner workings of the house. So do not bring it into the house so that it doesn't understand the house. I don't know what happened in our divorce, but the doll is not with me. And, you know, I guess I would say to my ex-wife, from Hunger Games, may the odds be forever in your favor.
Yeah, that thing scares me. I've seen too many of those Annabelle movies and all those creepy dolls. Chucky back in the day, at least he told funny jokes. I like him better than Annabelle. Annabelle was just creepy. Chucky at least gives you a good time before he stabs you. So at least you get a few chuckles in before you have your final breaths. But I don't mess with dolls as an adult. My kids want to play with dolls, great. I do not mess with them. Too dangerous. They will haunt you in your dreams forever and ever. I don't believe it. People can be reincarnated in them. I don't trust them.
No, I don't. And that's something you need to learn on Wake Up Call today. Do not trust your children's dolls. Don't trust any of them.
This show is all about dolls now. It's not about sports. It's about dolls that will haunt you and will try to hurt you. So watch out and sleep with probably a machete and one eye open so you're ready to attack when Chucky comes to play in the middle of the night. That's what this show has turned into.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to...
And it's for the better. This show is way more entertaining. Anything we originally said we were going to talk about when we talked last night about what we were going to discuss this morning, it's got immensely better just right now because of doll talk.
Yeah, when people... I'm not going to tell you the weapons I have hidden in my house, but they're for home invasion. And people are like, oh, for human beings? I'm like, some of them are for humans. The bat is for the dolls.
How about samurai swords, nunchucks, all that cool stuff, like Ninja Turtles?
Yeah, I'm ready. But here's the thing that I learned, and it's funny because people think I'm kidding, but I'm actually not kidding when I say this. If you have a doll in your house, I will say to them, I go, listen, you can't crush the skull. You can't rip the head off and think that you killed the doll because the spirit just goes into something else. Like I try to let people know from what I've learned, because if you don't understand your history, you're doomed to repeat it. And I watched a lot of Night of the Living Dummy and the Chucky stuff and all of that. And I try to be very cognizant of, and this is what I've told people, if and when, because I got Lily and Lily is my kid, if and when I have a human child, boy or girl, if you buy them something that is a doll, a ventriloquist, or represents in some way, shape, or form, resembles a human being, I will tell you at the door, do not bring it in my house. Do not wrap it and bring it in my house, because once it sees my house, it knows my house. And I mean that. If you bring a doll to my house, or a ventriloquist, whatever it is, to the house, I will ask you to put it back in your car and leave that omen in your vehicle. If you decide to come in my house with it, you will leave with the doll and we will never be friends again. And people
I know what I'm buying you for your birthday. I know what I'm getting you for October 21st.
Yeah,
I'm sending you a crap ton of dolls from via Amazon. They're coming fast and furious right to your house. Good luck, and may the odds be ever in your favor.
I'm going to tell you this right now. You and I started our friendship in 2008. Our friendship will be deceased in 2024 if you do that.
Yeah. Hey, if I get a quick laugh out of it because I sent you a crap ton of dolls, it might be worth it just for the moment. I might just to get a quick chuckle, I might do it just to screw with you.
Yeah, you and I are very open to having chuckles and fun and a great time, but you have to determine if it's worth ending our friendship.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't make me choose. I want those dolls to mess with you, so you never know.
I remember I dated one girl down in Florida, and she it was for a short time. We worked together at Disney, and she said to me, it was around my birthday, and she said, Halloween Horror Nights is going on at Universal. And I went, cool, why are you telling me that? And she's like, well, I love horror and I want to go. And I said, okay, no thank you. I said, I don't
have a good time, I'll see you later.
Yeah, I was like, I don't like that stuff. And so she says to me, after she tries to get me to go a couple times, her third approach is to say this, which I don't understand why this would have changed my mind. She's like, well, they do houses. And they have 3 different houses, and every year they change. And this year, they're doing a Chucky house. And I was like, so I said no multiple times, and then you came to me with, hey, that thing that's terrifying in your life? I'm going to push you. This is going to be the thing to get you over the hump. I'm going to tell you that specifically there's a Chucky house. So I didn't go. Spoiler alert, I didn't go. And I didn't pay.
And 2 days later, you never saw this lady ever again. No, we broke it up with Brian instantly.
Yeah, we did break up. She is doing well. We did have a nice lunch a few years after, and she seems to be living her life well and doing it for God, and I appreciate that. I will say this: she described to me the house, and she's like, I think she said something. I'm trying to remember, but I think she said something like, it's scarier than I thought it would be. And I'm like, okay, you're batting 1,000. Keep talking. And then she says to me that there's a room. She goes, you go through the whole house. There's Chucky whatevers. You go into a room. This is hell to me. This is a portion of hell. This is maybe the entrance door to hell or the lobby of hell. She said there were all these Chucky dolls, huge ones, tiny ones, big and small sizes, and in the midst of this pile of Chuckies, there were ones that were actually come to life and run out. And I was like, why would you ever purposefully walk into a building with an 8-foot Chucky and a baby Chucky, one that could crawl inside of your nose, and then one that's out there, and then have them run and chase you? And they said that at Halloween Horror Nights, these characters can come up to you as close as they can, as close as they want to get.
Or you're not allowed to fight back. I've seen that before.
They can't touch you. They can't touch you, but they can get all the way up and literally they could put a chainsaw in your face. And I'm thinking if somebody ran up to me full speed, I'm either running or I'm a non-violent person. If you jump out of something, I'm going to punch you in the face. It's my reflex.
That'd be my first thing to do, would be punch back. And I've gone to some of those horror places where they pop up at you and scares the crap out of me. I just drop F-bombs every 2 seconds. I'm like, I saw there's women and children here. I'm just going to drop an F-bomb when you scare me like that. And I might punch and kick. You never know. I might bite. You never know. They shouldn't be allowed to come right at you like that. It's too dangerous. Too scary.
Right. And I don't know who would sign up for something like that. They're like, oh, no, there's people that dress up like leprechauns and they'll just walk up to you. And they said they love the people that are scared because they get in your face. And if you run, they chase you. So the more scared you are, the more these people will run up to you. And they're like, yeah, they literally have a guy who doesn't have the blade, but has the chainsaw, sounds like a chainsaw, and will chase you with the chainsaw. And I'm like, why would I spend 60 to 80 to whatever how much it costs now? Why would I spend $80 to have somebody make me run at full speed, jump into a trash can to hide, and then while I'm in the trash can feeling that I'm safe, a leprechaun is in there with me who goes boop to my nose. You know what I mean? Like, what in what world are you putting yourself in? There's a curious side of me that's like, maybe I want to go to Halloween Horror Nights. Maybe I want to see what it's all about. But then I think about the fact that, like, they can come right up to you and that they enjoy coming up to the people that are the most uncomfortable. And how am I supposed to be comfortable if you have a chainsaw by my face? I'm supposed to just act like I don't know that it's there, and I don't know. When it comes to, this is what I'm going to say about horror, and I mean this with love, okay? If you are dating a man or a woman and you are at the house and you are attracted to this person, or else why are you dating them? And you're attracted to them and they say, let's put on a scary movie. You know it's probably an opportunity for you to have a little kiss, have a little arm around the person. If they put on a scary movie, 99.9% of the time, it's because you're going to have an opportunity to be romantic. In the 0.1% chance that that psychopath actually likes that movie and watches it in full and wants nothing to do with you, doesn't want you to kiss them, and if you leave the room, they don't know that you left, please, with all due respect, when the movie ends, just say, babe, it's late, love you to pieces, I think you got to go home, I got an early day at work. Because the 0.1% chance that you're sitting next to a person, which I have, who just wants to watch the scary movie, you're sitting next to a serial killer. And I want you to know that.
Probably, yes. It's not something that you really watch the full thing. You watch 5 minutes and you're like, I've had enough. Let's do something else.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing, right? It's the easiest. It's the easiest line in the book that's not a line. You put on a scary movie,
yeah,
and you get, you have a little kiss here, you have a little romantic time. That's what the scary movies are for. But when you're sitting next to
some people, it's stay away from me. I'm focusing on Michael Myers stabbing to death some 5 innocent teenage kids. Yeah. That's what some people want to watch. Other people want to get their freak on. It's to each his own, whatever you enjoy.
Well, one of my exes said to me one time, she said, I love it. I love it, the clown. And I was like, okay. This is my ex-wife. And I'm like, all right, well, we don't have children right now. And it is not a fan of children in a way that I want you to be a fan of children. So she says to me, I want to dress up like it for Halloween. I was like, oh, like a sexy version of it, like a kind of like it, but also like a cute, sexy, whatever. Yeah. She goes, no. I want like the big head and everything. I want to look exactly like it. And I said to her, if you're going to dress up like it, I'm going to be in another part of the country on Halloween. So when somebody, and that's the thing I think about too. Who wants to look like that? And to that extent, she said, I want to be exactly how he looks on the film. And I thought, okay, I think I made a bad choice. So,
that's the future. You were probably thinking, that's the future mother of my children.
And guess what? Now it's not. So it's like, it's like there's safety in making good choices, kids. And we've started off this show about the NFL, Major League Baseball, and Luzerne County Community College Baseball by speaking on dolls and exes and Halloween Horror Nights and not putting on a scary movie.
I think we accomplished everything we sought out to do. I think this is way better than anything we planned. This is 10 times better of a show now.
So with that being said, the only way to go from It the Clown to the NFL to bridge this gap is to I can do the impression, and I tell you, Ross, I've done impressions my whole life. You know this. It freaks me out. Even though I know I'm doing It the Clown, it unnerves me in my chest to do it, because I was just gonna do it, and I'm like, something inside of me when he's in that sewer, right? And
go for it.
When he's like, hey Georgie, when he does that whole thing, he goes, we'll float down here. I can't. It freaks me out. It's weird, but my bridging of horror movies to the Chiefs is Pat Mahomes now the clown in the sewer? Are people now angered by the Chiefs? Have they become the Goliath and no longer the David? Are they now the villain of the movie, so to speak?
I don't think they're a villain yet. They're not like the New England Patriots where they were boring and hostile to the media, where Bill Belichick gives you one-word answers, never smile. I still think there's very lovable Chiefs there, Kansas City Chiefs members of the organization. You got Andy Reid, who is just a lovable dude who just likes to eat like 10 cheeseburgers for fun. So the average Joe Schmo in America could relate to him. I know I can relate to Andy Reid. He just wants those nuggies, those chicken nuggies and chicken tendies and the burgers and all that. That's all he wants to do. Pat Mahomes still is kind of goofy. He kind of sounds a little like Krusty the Clown from The Simpsons. He's got a goofy, Sideshow Bob hair that he had back in the day.
Yeah.
So Pat Mahomes is still a fun guy. Travis Kelce, it did rub me the wrong way. He's in the heat about him screaming at his head coach and bumping him. That was disrespectful. I don't condone that. But he's still right now with America's sweetheart, America's darling. Some people can't stand all the Taylor Swift hype. He's with her, and it's like a fairy tale if they end up together. They're singing after they win the Super Bowl. They were singing "You Belong to Me" and "It's Our Love Story." Baby, just say yes. They're singing back and forth. It's like a Cinderella fairy tale if they end up together. So there's still plenty of love with the Chiefs. If it's a few years from now, and there's some more up and coming underdog teams, and the Chiefs squash their hopes, and the Chiefs start to get like a little nasty to the media and get more edge to them, or if Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift have a nasty split and the Swifties turn against them, then I think there's more to hate about the Chiefs.
He better hope they get married. He better hope they get married.
Pretty much. The breakup songs and how bad it's going to get. People are going to troll him. They'll probably say nasty things to his house, which I don't condone. But the Chiefs right now are still lovable. If they continue to win and dominate the NFL, people eventually, no matter how lovable they are, they will start to turn against the winner. Because the Golden State Warriors were pretty lovable with Stephen Curry and everything. They were a little cocky. Yeah. And Draymond Green's a little crazy. But eventually they kept winning and people got sick of them. The Yankees kept winning in the late 90s, early 2000s. People got sick of them. So no matter what, they're lovable. They're way more lovable than the New England Patriots or the San Antonio Spurs were for basketball, where they were very robotic and businesslike, but it helped them win. But still, eventually, if you win too much and other teams don't get a crack at it, people will start to turn against them because they're going to want to see something new. They're going to get bored, and they're going to like, where's the next team that's going to come up, sneak up, and beat them? So they're still lovable for now. If it's 3-4 years from now and they continue to dominate the NFL, they're going to lose some of that lust. The only positive thing is, for people who are rooting for Pat Mahomes to somehow supplant the great Tom Brady as the GOAT in the NFL, you might root for him to keep winning because he has 3 Super Bowl wins now. If he could somehow get to 4 to tie, 5 to break, which seems impossible because it seems impossible Brady won 7 Super Bowls and made it 10.
Yeah.
You never know. He's still only 28 years old, so people might root for that. But people also who are especially big Tom Brady fans might not really want to see that. They might want to see Brady's record stand for the rest of the football days.
Yeah. I mean, listen, when we look at this and we look at the fact that, Pat Mahomes, he's been in the league for 7 years. He's been a starter for the last 6. He was behind Alex Smith as a rookie. Being a starter now for the last 6 years, 6 years as a starter, 6 conference championship games, 6 times out of six opportunities, knocking on the door of the Super Bowl, 5 Super Bowls in 6 chances, 3 wins in 6 chances. 50% of the time you're winning the Super Bowl when you get there. You're getting there 5 out of 6 years that you're a starter. I mean, if Tom Brady didn't do what he did, we'd already be arguing that Pat Mahomes is the best. But the question becomes, with Pat Mahomes now, does he have to win 8? Let's say, because let's look at the numbers. Okay, by the numbers, if he's been to, and I think I wrote them down here. So in 6 years, if he's been to 5 and he's won 3, then in the next,
he's been to 4 because they lost the 2 AFC Championship games. They lost to Brady and the Patriots, and then they lost to Joe Burrow and the Bengals. He's been to 4 out of 6 for Super Bowl appearances.
So we look at this and we say to ourselves that in the time that he has been in the league and everything that we have here, I want to make a note of this right now. So I actually want to go back and look at this and make sure that I'm right in my numbers here because I'm gonna project some things here. So,
because just think about this, Dan. Though he's no matter what, whether he's going to go down as the GOAT, he's going to be a top 5 player when it's all said and done. Even if he's not number 1, he's a Hall of Famer right now at 28 years old. If he retired, which is not going to happen, he could play another 10 plus years. He'd be in the Hall of Fame right now if he never took another snap in the NFL again, which is crazy.
Right. So, and some would argue when you win one Super Bowl that you should get in because you look at how good. Well, depending on if you're the caliber of Pat Mahomes or Dan Marino,
you need to have big numbers. You at least need like a few years. He's had 6 years as a starter of big time regular season stats, 2-time NFL MVP, 3-time Super Bowl MVP. He's got the numbers that he's a Hall of Famer already.
Yeah. So we look at this right now, and I want to correct myself because I said something earlier this week a few times. So in the 6 years, and I think you corrected me here, in the 6 years he's been a starter, so 6 years as a starter, he's been to 6 conference championships. So he's never not made it to the doorway of the Super Bowl, speaking of Pat Mahomes. In the time that he has been the starter here, he's been to 4 Super Bowls, and he has won 3. So I said 3 and 5. What I was thinking of something else. So I just miscalculated. So 4 Super Bowls he's been to. He's won 3. So he's 3-1 in the Super Bowl 6 years. So let's say in the next 6 years he does the same thing. So in the next 6 years he goes to 4 Super Bowls. He gets 3 rings. Now he has 6. If he in 12 years goes to 8 Super Bowls and wins 6 of them. Brady's been to 10, he's won 7. Is Brady still the best? Or if we see Pat Mahomes just consistently go to the let me argue it this way. If he does what he's already done, 6 years, 6 conference championships, 4 Super Bowl appearances, 3 rings. If he does that again, we'll start there. What do you think? So if he in the next 6 years duplicates this, goes to 4 Super Bowls, wins 3, in 12 years, 8 Super Bowls, 6 rings, 50% of the time he's winning. Is he the GOAT? Brady went to 10, he won 7. What are your thoughts?
No, he wouldn't be the GOAT yet. Like, he has the potential to get there. It's still a crazy number, and it's going to be hard with the salary cap era. And, they found ways to win even without Tyreek Hill and without a name brand receiver. And there are a lot of drop passes, and Travis Kelce's getting older and maybe distracted with the whole Swift thing. They find ways to win. It's going to be hard for him to duplicate what he's done in these next few years. Plus, you have to hope Andy Reid stays on as head coach. They keep Chris Jones and Steve Spagnuolo on the defensive side of the ball. But even if he does that, he's still, I think in my mind, he's going to have to at least match the 7 or eventually break it with 8 to be the GOAT. Because even Mahomes said, the 2 times they faced off in the playoffs, he beat them in the regular season a few times. He lost that AFC Championship game to the Patriots in 2018. It's not necessarily his fault. He had a solid game, but they still lost. And then in that Super Bowl, it wasn't necessarily a fair fight because his offensive line didn't really block for him. He was running for his life, Mahomes, that game against the Buccaneers. But Brady and Tampa Bay beat him head-to-head in the Super Bowl. So the 2 times where it mattered most, Brady, even as an older player in his 40s, and Mahomes in his peak, in his prime, Brady beat him twice in an AFC Championship game to deny him a Super Bowl appearance, and then in a Super Bowl championship, the only person to ever beat Mahomes in a Super Bowl is Tom Brady. So when Brady has that over his head, even Mahomes said it's going to be hard to ever say I'm the GOAT, at least unless you match or go at least 1 above him in Super Bowl titles, which was very hard to do to get to 8 because it was hard to get. It's insane to think you get 7.
Yeah.
But because he beat him head-to-head twice in the playoffs, I think you at least need to get to 7 to tie, probably 8 to overtake him in Super Bowl lead to ever be considered the GOAT. Because still people are going to say, even though Mahomes probably is going to break his regular season, all his passing records that Brady has that he broke from Drew Brees and Peyton Manning and all that, Mahomes will get those records, so it'll be close. And he's going to probably win at least a few more Super Bowls. But if he doesn't get more Super Bowl titles than Brady, they're going to say Brady has more Super Bowl titles, and he beat him twice when it mattered most in the playoffs, including the Super Bowl, as an older quarterback. So he'll always have that over him. So even if he gets over him, it's not guaranteed he'll be considered the GOAT. It could be a Michael Jordan, LeBron James situation. That even if LeBron James got 6 or 7 NBA titles, which he only has 4 right now, still people are going to say Michael Jordan's the GOAT. And I still believe Jordan's the GOAT over LeBron James. I think Mahomes has a chance, but I think he's going to have to get to probably 8 just to win that argument because he lost head-to-head to him twice in the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm looking back on Brady's numbers here right now, and the first season that he was the starter was in 2001, 2002.
Like, his stats are not going to be as great. Like, a lot of those early teams for Brady, he had no-name receivers, and it was mostly actually Bill Belichick's defense, and he was considered like a Brock Purdy, a game manager. But then as the years went on, especially when he got Randy Moss and other better talent, Gronkowski, his stats really picked up. But early on, if you look at the stats, Mahomes' numbers are way better than Brady, just individual stats. But Brady eventually caught on. But in the beginning, it was like Brady was a heck of a quarterback, but he wasn't a superstar. They were winning with great defense, good running game, and a good quarterback. Then he became great. Mahomes has been great pretty much from day one.
Yeah, I mean, and Mahomes is different. Mahomes throwing left-handed, throwing right-handed, his ability to be on the run and not get tackled, his taking off with his feet, just the acrobatic things that he does are different than the traditional drop-back passer that Tom Brady is. I mean, they're different quarterbacks. Brady won his first Super Bowl the first year he was a starter, which was 2001-2002 season. So when you look at that, I mean, he went to 3 Super Bowls in 4 years and won. That's what okay. I know what I'm thinking now. I didn't misspoke. I misspoke today. I didn't misspeak before. They went to, okay, I know what I was thinking now. They got 3 rings in the last 5 years or something like that. That's what I was saying. So
yeah,
I know what I was looking at here. So when we look at Brady, he won 3 in 4 years. Then they didn't go to a Super Bowl for 2 years. Then they went back. Yeah. They lost. Then they didn't go.
They lost to Eli Manning and the Giants twice, right. But he still didn't win a championship for 10 years. From 2004 to 2014, they made it to the Super Bowl twice, had the undefeated regular season team, but they lost both times to Eli Manning and the Giants. So he went 10 years without winning a championship. He won those other 4 titles later in his career, in his late 30s and early 40s. So he kept winning late. Who knows if Mahomes will stay healthy and motivated enough, like Brady, to play late into his 30s, into his early 40s and mid-40s and keep winning Super Bowls well after his prime, like Brady did.
And that's So I mean, it's interesting here. Greg saying, "Pump the brakes, big time, please." Thank you, Ross. Let's all calm down on this silly Mahomes GOAT talk. And so, I bring up the fact of where Mahomes is now, and I bring up the fact that he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. And I've never said that he's the GOAT. It took me a while to say Brady was the GOAT. But when we look at the numbers and we look at what could be, I'm just interested in the conversation of, does he have to win 8 Super Bowls? I think he does in order to be considered the greatest of all time. And so by the numbers, he would have to essentially, within the next 10 years, if we're doing what we're doing now and we're saying he's going to make 4 Super Bowls in 6 years and win 3 of them.
He's going to have to win 5 more titles. So he's going to have to probably win a Super Bowl in half of the amount of years. He has 10 years left. Maybe he goes a little more. Maybe because he's only 28, he'll be 29 later this year. He might go to his 40s. He's going to have to win a Super Bowl in almost half of those years that he has left in order to pass Brady in the Super Bowl title department.
Yeah, and I think the reality of the fact is Pat Mahomes is a unique talent. And the thing that I get frustrated about that people seem to forget is Peyton Manning is a tremendous quarterback, and Peyton Manning won 1 less Super Bowl than Pat Mahomes at this time. So, we look at Peyton Manning, we look at what he did.
But can't we appreciate, that's the other thing, can't we appreciate all these great quarterbacks? Whoever is the GOAT, whatever, that's a fun debate to have.
Right.
And Mahomes you won't know until the end of his career, which is hopefully many years off. But let's appreciate Mahomes and Manning and Brady and Breeze and all those superstar quarterbacks. Let's appreciate all of them. We don't have to say, because one's great, the other, you have to put the other ones down and say they're garbage. Just like with the LeBron, Michael Jordan debate. You could love all of them. You could love Kobe and Michael and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, all those guys. You don't have to put the other person down just because your favorite guy who you think is the GOAT is you want him to remain that. You don't have to put the other guys down just to win your argument. You can still say my guy's the GOAT, but I respect and love all these guys because these still guys are all world great talents who will be Hall of Famers and remembered for generations to come. So let's love them and enjoy Mahomes' career right now. Let's not worry what he's going to be in the next 15 years. Let's enjoy Mahomes now while you have him at his peak, because one day he'll be gone from playing football and you're going to be hoping for another great talent like Mahomes, which might be hard to come by. So let's enjoy Mahomes while we have him.
Yeah, and I agree. I think when we look at the dynasty that the Chiefs have now, this was a team that, back a little over 10 years ago in like 2007, we're talking about a team that went 4-12, 2-14, and 4-12. Talking about a team that went 10-38 in 3 seasons. We're talking about an Andy, coaching Andy Reid that people thought was washed up. It was kind of like it was split. It was okay. He left Philadelphia, couldn't win the big game. He's on the tail end of his career, probably got a couple years left. Then there was other people that were like, man, I can't believe that Philly got rid of Andy Reid. He's such a good coach. We look at the second coming of Andy Reid, and he has been even more successful. You look at how many times he's leading Philadelphia to conference championship game. That's the thing about Andy Reid. He leads Philadelphia, they go to multiple conference championships. He leads Kansas City, they go to multiple conference championships. He gets both teams to the Super Bowl. He wins Super Bowls with Kansas City. He's done it with 2 different teams. He's been terrific, and he arguably is a better coach now than he was back then. And then, you look at Travis Kelce, and people forget that Travis Kelce came in the league in 2013, and Travis Kelce, 4 years before Pat Mahomes coming into the league, he had 1,000-yard receiving seasons when Pat Mahomes wasn't his quarterback. So there's a lot to be said about, different things that happen in history, what Andy Reid did before Pat Mahomes, what Travis Kelce did before Pat Mahomes. But with Pat Mahomes, we have seen them go. It doesn't, and we've realized it doesn't matter who's in their backfield. It doesn't matter who's, their receiver. They'll find a way to get it done because Pat Mahomes is acrobatic. But
which is like what the Patriots were.
Right.
In the Patriots' heyday,
Brady
was winning with guys. The one guy, I think his last name was Hogan. He didn't play college football. He played college lacrosse. They get like Hogan. Lacrosse players off the street, and they became NFL star players, which on another team with a lesser quarterback, they'd probably be pedestrian players and probably get cut. They wouldn't even make the team. With Tom Brady, Hogan was like a star receiver for them on multiple Super Bowl teams. And it's a guy who's a lacrosse player, not even a football player, and he turned him into a viable wide receiver in the league. So it's pretty much Mahomes and Brady in that situation. No matter who is out there with them, as long as they stay healthy at quarterback and get some sort of protection with the offensive line so he's not running for his life like in that Super Bowl against Tampa, they're going to be effective, and they're going to be hard to beat, and they know how to win these tough playoff games, and they're always going to be in the running for a championship while they're still playing. Until their physical powers start to drift away, which with Brady, only towards the very end, his last year, he started to look mediocre. But for years to come, Brady was always had a chance to win. Mahomes will have a chance to win no matter who you throw him out there with, especially if he still can pair up with Andy Reid, who's 65 years old. He's getting older, but he can still coach for another 10-plus years if everything goes well.
Yeah, Bill Belichick, 71. So, coached 6 more, coached 6 years older than Andy Reid and was still out there coaching in his early 70s. Could be back again. So could end up overseeing a team. Who knows what Bill Belichick's going to do from here.
Do you think he would take the 49ers defensive coordinator job just so he gets a job in the league, or go into broadcasting, or just take a year off and wait to be a coach? Because the 49ers, I don't think that he deserved it, but Steve Wilkes became the scapegoat, and they threw him away yesterday after the defense was pretty good, and then in the playoffs they struggled against some of the better teams. They got lit up a little by the Packers offense, the Lions offense, and the Chiefs in the second half, and they decided everyone else stays, but the 49ers defensive coordinator has to go. So you wonder, with like a Pete Carroll or Bill Belichick, guys who were legendary NFL coaches, would they be willing to be defensive coordinators on a team that could win a Super Bowl and maybe get them back in the running to be a head coach, even though they're in their early 70s? I'd be interested to see if any of them would be willing to be a defensive coordinator at this point.
Yeah, I thought about Mike Vrabel. Could he have been the defensive coordinator at Jacksonville? And and could he have led that way? I guess San Francisco misses DeMeco Ryans a little bit here right now. Yeah. But when we look at everybody else, right? Because I've had a lot of conversations on the show this week about, the Super Bowl, about the Chiefs, and as we step forward and expand the universe, the multiverse of what we're discussing here, the other 31 teams in the NFL, right now, Ross, right now, in this moment, who is prepared, healthy? I'm talking complete health. I'm talking they're healthy, their guys are back, they're doing their thing. There's guys that are in free agency, so there's a lot of stuff that's up in the air. But to the ones who we know, these guys are coming back. If they're 100% healthy, who in the NFL, NFC, or AFC can challenge the Kansas City Chiefs, in your opinion?
In the AFC, if Joe Burrow's healthy, he's kind of like Brady and Kobe Bryant and all those greats. He's got that killer instinct. I would say Joe Burrow and the Bengals will be in it. Josh Allen, if he cuts down the turnovers, which he started to do late in the year, Josh Allen, the Buffalo Bills, I know they fall apart in the playoffs. The missed field goals and the miscues. They had a chance to beat the Chiefs at home in Buffalo in the playoffs this year. But Josh Allen, the Bills are in it. Joe Burrow, the Bengals are in it. Who else in the AFC? Trying to think who else. The West. The Chargers possibly, but that's an if, because that's if Jim Harbaugh changes the culture there, has a lot of talent, can transform Justin Herbert, who's a great offensive quarterback talent. If he can transform him into an all-world talent in the division, same division as Mahomes and the Chiefs. Jim Harbaugh, who's had a lot of success in the college and the NFL ranks, he could possibly turn the Chargers into a big-time winner. So I'd say that they would have a possibility there. And then the Baltimore Ravens, I'd still say they have a chance. But again, Lamar Jackson, as great as he is, as a two-time MVP, this was their year. They were supposed to win it all. They were at home in Buffalo against a depleted Chiefs team with no real wide receivers, and the Ravens couldn't get it done. And Lamar Jackson threw some costly turnovers, some big mistakes. So the Ravens, I think, are in it. I'd go with Ravens, Bengals, Bills, Chargers possibility. And then in the NFC, the 49ers for sure are going to still be a threat. I still think Brock Purdy played pretty well. Not great, but he played pretty well. And they still have all-world talent with Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuels and all the star players. So the 49ers are going to still be in it. The Packers are coming up, but I still don't think they're there yet. But Jordan Love and the Packers look dangerous. I think the Detroit Lions are going to be very dangerous. I think the Lions, you better watch out for them. As long as Dan Campbell stops gambling and going for it on fourth down every time or two-point conversions, the Lions are in it. The Cowboys are somewhat in it, but I think the Cowboys, I still don't trust them. Cowboys are going to win 12 games every year, and I still think Mike McCarthy might get fired at the end of this year or not renew his contract because I still don't trust that they'll get it done in the playoffs. And the Eagles, I like the Eagles, but they're on a come down there. They got two good coordinators in Fangio and Kellen Moore, but the Eagles really got embarrassed those last 7-8 games of the year, including the playoffs. So probably in the NFC, I would just say that it's 49ers and Lions are pretty much the cream of the crop in the NFC. And in the AFC, I would say Ravens, Bengals if Burrow is healthy, Bills, and possibly Chargers. So those 6 teams are really the main threats to the Chiefs in my mind.
Yeah, I think that's a great analysis. I think my threats to the Chiefs to start in the AFC, it's funny because when I was asking you the question, the first name that popped into my head was Joe Burrow. And so when you think about Cincinnati, I think Cincinnati, T. Higgins is a free agent right now. And so we have to see what becomes of that. And I still don't think that the T. Higgins, Jamar Chase thing, they both haven't been healthy enough for an entire season to really see how good that could be. But, with the Cincinnati Bengals, I think they definitely can pose a threat to the Kansas City Chiefs because of the play of Joe Burrow and his ability and just what they've been able to do since he got there. I think the Buffalo Bills for sure are a threat. I think Buffalo's issue and Baltimore's issue, and I'll agree with you on both of them, is that albeit that they are a threat to the Kansas City Chiefs and one of the only threats to the Chiefs in the AFC as of the way the rosters are right now, Buffalo and Baltimore got away from what was defeating the Chiefs, which was running the ball. San Francisco got away from it in the second half too, and I was screaming at the screen going, is this scripted? It's like Buffalo...
Hand the ball to Christian McCaffrey. They couldn't stop him early on.
Well, you look at it, you're like, Buffalo runs the ball, they can't stop it. They stop running in the second half. Baltimore runs the ball, they can't stop it. They get away from it. You look at San Francisco, they stop running the ball in the third quarter. They're 3-and-outs all over the place. So the question becomes, if that's the thing that's going to beat the Chiefs and that's the thing that's going to get them down, there's so much talent. Buffalo has James Cook, who I backed when he was coming out of college. I covered him at Georgia. And so I told people, I said, listen, this guy's going to take over. You're not going to need Singletary and Moss. He's going to be able to do the job of 2 guys. He's now the dominant starter. People are now behind James Cook a year after I was behind James Cook in belief that he was going to be able to do some good things in the NFL and in Buffalo. So Buffalo, then you look to Baltimore and Lamar Jackson. I backed him as a quarterback to crickets. I told people he was going to be a good quarterback. I didn't hear a lot of people echoing my sentiments. I think one guy on some TV show said something positive about him, but I didn't see a lot of people backing the Lamar Jackson side of things. Now everybody wants to talk to Lamar, to be around Lamar Jackson. So, I think Baltimore poses a threat because of their rushing attack and because of their dynamic quarterback. I think Buffalo poses a threat because of their rushing attack and because of their dynamic quarterback. I think Cincinnati poses a threat because of the Joe Burrow factor. I think when it comes to defense, this is where it gets a little bit dicey because Buffalo's defense has not had that, the health of going up against the Kansas City Chiefs and being consistently healthy. And I think that consistent health, if they had that, then they maybe pose the biggest threat, then Baltimore, then maybe Cincinnati, based on looking at defensively how these teams stack up against them. So, I mean, I would say Buffalo, Baltimore have the best threat in the AFC. Cincinnati, I would agree with you, has some threat. We'll see with the Chargers. They have a fantastic quarterback in Justin Herbert, and I would argue that he maybe throws the prettiest ball in the NFL. But when you look at the Chargers, again, they have to stay healthy. Their defense has to be consistent. Their offensive weapons don't stay healthy, and Eckler and Mike Williams, as well as Keenan Allen, are all getting older. So the question is, are they going to draft correctly, make enough changes in trades or free agency to be ready for the changing of the guard? But that's an interesting team to look at. I think if
they got to learn how to win,
right,
too. Harbaugh has to change the culture, and they have to learn how to win close games and not feel like they're just going to blow a game and lose, and they got to get rid of that losing culture, and that's going to be a big task for Jim Harbaugh to do.
Right, and I'm going to tell you somebody else who I think could be a threat because I think they're way ahead of schedule. And this might surprise some people, and you might completely disagree with me. I think the Houston Texans might be a threat at some point here. You got C.J. Stroud. You have DeMeco Ryans, who knows what it's like to be in San Francisco and to almost get there. And so with DeMeco Ryans being your head coach, with C.J. Stroud being there, with the defense improving, you got the offensive rookie of the year in C.J., you got the defensive rookie of the year in Will Anderson Jr. that I covered at Alabama. I think the Houston Texans are a sneaky threat to a lot of people, and I think Jacksonville had this window of the last couple years, and now that window is closing of them to win the division and the division to not be as strong. Now we'll see what happens with the Titans, but if the Colts continue to get better, the Houston Texans continue to build off of what they did this season, then the Jacksonville Jaguars are in a place of danger where they really need to make sure that everything that they're doing, the personnel that they have, the coaches they have, the scheming and the planning that they have, that they are focused on understanding that you might have been able to get by here and there in certain games, but you're not going to be able to get by the Texans easily. You may not be able to get by the Colts easily, and we'll see where the Titans stack up. But I think the Texans could grow to be a threat, and I think that they're potentially in a better placement than the Chargers are at being a threat to Kansas City as of right now. In the NFC, I would say, I'm not going to say the Cowboys are a threat because the Cowboys are only a threat to one team, and that's the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, themselves.
So they're a threat to themselves. I think Philadelphia's on the way down, so I don't see Philadelphia as a threat. I think that, I don't see anybody in the NFC South as a threat, although I like what Baker's been doing with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the resurrection of his career.
But he's a free agent.
Right.
They have to see if they're dying.
Right. So, I would say ultimately, I think San Francisco continues to be a threat, but I think San Francisco, being a threat to the Chiefs, that is, I think San Francisco has to figure out where they've gone wrong. They had a 3-game stretch this season where they just didn't play that well. And in that stretch that they had, they went from some people arguing they're the best team in the league to sitting here and saying, is this team really that good? Right? Can they handle a full season? And so, looking at the San Francisco 49ers, I think they have some good pieces on their defense. I think that, they obviously have some good pieces on their offense. I like Brock Purdy. I liked him before he was drafted. So when I look at San Francisco's team, they're missing a few elements. They have to be able to close games out. They have to be able to coordinate high-octane situations. Kyle Shanahan has to prove that he can lead a team to secure a victory late, that he doesn't give it up in the fourth quarter. And, they always say, don't be the smartest person in the room. Hire people that challenge you. And I think that he really needs to, when it comes to that defensive coordinator position, he needs to hire somebody that's going to make him a better coach and maybe is going to disagree with him on a few things that could improve his ability to coach the team. So I think San Fran is there, but they
gotta
need
stop blowing those double-digit games. They keep blowing the Super Bowl and the key spots.
Well, and I brought up on yesterday's show, don't forget Kyle Shanahan, right? He had an opportunity to win this Super Bowl as a head coach, but arguably the biggest debacle of Super Bowl history, the only other time the Super Bowl went into overtime, he was the offensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons when they blew a 28-3 lead over the New England Patriots. And people will say, oh, it was the defense, but I would also say, okay, well, if the defense gave up a bunch of points, how come Kyle Shanahan's offense stopped scoring?
And they stopped running the ball. They could have kept killing the clock, giving Brady less time and killing the momentum of the Patriots, and instead he stopped. Had Matt Ryan keep dropping back and passing the ball. He got sacked. The ball got stripped out of his hand a few times. I'm like, there was lots of things he could have done to make his life easier. Same thing with Brock Purdy in this Super Bowl. If they would have kept running the ball and not totally given up on the running game, they maybe could have run some more clock off, and they would have had a better chance. Instead, they put it a lot on Purdy in the second half, and Purdy did okay early on, but he started to fall apart when it came to crunch time. He needed those running backs, including Christian McCaffrey, to carry some of that load in key spots, not just put it on Purdy.
Yeah, and maybe that's the thing. Maybe Kyle Shanahan, maybe his knee-jerk reaction when his team is in trouble is to go to the air instead of going to the ground. And maybe he needs to learn a difference there. And maybe somebody needs to, again, hiring people that may be smarter in the room, people that will challenge you, maybe that will help him to make some better decisions as he goes forward. But outside of San Francisco, I would maybe say the Lions, but in all honesty, I think that the biggest threats to the Chiefs are in the AFC. I think it's the Texans, the Bengals, the Bills, and the Ravens. And then I think in the NFC right now, it's just the 49ers. I think, as much as Dan Campbell is a fiery guy and I can appreciate his tenacity, I also think sometimes it's short-sighted. And I think he's that guy that I love his passion, but also that guy in the bar where I'm like, dude, chill. There's no reason to fight with people just because we're in the bar right now. So I think there's that side to him that needs to kind of cool off, that we can't go to any bar on a Saturday because he doesn't mind the fight, and you got to pick and choose your battles. And I think there's moments where Dan Campbell kind of has to reel it in and say, okay, you know what? I'm not a wimp if I go for the extra point. I'm not
kick a field goal sometimes.
Right. So, I think there are moments where you take the points, and there's moments where, you make decisions that can help you down the road. I appreciate his tenacity. I appreciate his fire. I appreciate what he's done with the Detroit Lions. At the same time, I think he needs to be smarter in some of these pieces. And I talked to Quadir Copeland about this when they defeated the North Carolina Tar Heels, and when I was talking to Syracuse in the locker room, I said to Q, you're passionate, but you're also focused. How can you take your passion, which sometimes can be uncontrollable, and control it into a focus? Because it's one thing to be passionate, but you have to be passionately focused. And I don't think that Dan Campbell is maybe at all times, and are any of us, but I think Dan Campbell, and it's exponential because everybody's watching him. He's in a profession where the world is watching. I think a lot of us struggle sometimes with having really, really awesome passion, but not focusing the energy. And I think that he could do a better job at kind of honing the energy and dialing it back for a second and saying, hey, I'm really excited. I'm fiery. I'm getting after it. But see, he's the type of guy as a coach that I picture as a linebacker wanting to blitz on every play. Sometimes you have to drop back in coverage.
You got to pick your battles, and you can't, like if you're playing a game of blackjack, playing cards, you can't just say hit me when you have a 19. That's insanity. So it's like you're gonna bust and you're gonna lose. So sometimes you have to know when to be ultra aggressive and go for it. That's great. Your players and your fans will love it. But other times, punt the ball on fourth down, kick a field goal, kick that point. Don't go for two every time. Learn when it's time to go for it and be aggressive. And know sometimes I'm not a wimp. and it doesn't challenge my manhood if I sometimes take the safer bet, because in the long run, I might find a way to win a game that way and strategize. Instead, he just seems to be ultra aggressive. Like, I gotta go for gotta go for it. Almost like it's an insecurity, or they're gonna challenge my manhood. They're gonna not believe in me that I can get this done. It doesn't make you less of a man just because you play it safe once in a while.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I would tell Dan Campbell to go back and listen to Kenny Rogers' song "The Gambler," where you have to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. So, I mean, that's reality here. I think that the Detroit Lions could be a threat. I agree with you. I agree with you on your list of who the threats to the Chiefs.
I still think the Chiefs, though,
I think
we talked the Cowboys are. The Chiefs could be their own worst enemy, because for a while this year they look lost. Yeah. They still got to work things out. There's a lot of distractions between all the commercials they're doing, the Taylor Swift stuff, everything. Tony, who you assume is probably going to be gone, he was a legit healthy scratch, kept dropping passes. There's a lot of stuff going on there, and a lot of people want to be stars and media darlings, and you wonder sometimes, are they focused on football? And for a while this year, especially after they got embarrassed on Christmas Day by the Raiders in Kansas City to clinch the division, I thought they were lost. I thought there was no chance. I thought they were going to get in the playoffs and maybe be one and done. Especially they were going to have to go on the road for the first time in Mahomes' career, not have home games in the playoffs besides that first round game. But they were able to refocus and get it done in the playoffs. But they can't always assume they're just going to snap their fingers and the switch is going to turn on. They're going to get it done. So in the end, the Chiefs might be their own worst enemy. The bigger celebrities and stars they become, and famous people they're going out with, or people they're around, and commercials and all these great opportunities, that's awesome. But you need to be able to focus on football, because eventually these other teams that are hungrier and younger than you are going to come back and bite you, and they're going to beat you. So right now they're finding a way to turn on the switch when they need to. Yeah. But that's not always going to work. Eventually, you're going to flip on the switch, and nothing's going to come on, and you're going to get blown out and lose a big playoff game, and that's going to be the end of the dynasty. So I still think in the end, as great as these teams are, I still think the Chiefs could be their own worst enemy into ending the dynasty if they get too greedy and not focus enough on the game of football, which made them big-time stars in the first place.
Let's go into this thing. Since you're a head coach now, and with Luzerne County Community College baseball program getting set for your first season and their return to playing baseball after they had a little bit of a hiatus here, so you get to usher in a new era. If you had a player on your team come up to you the way Travis Kelce came up to Andy Reid, how would you respond?
I would think in my mind, I would hope in the heat of the moment I wouldn't flip out and go crazy on the guy. I've had coaches who would instantly go crazy and they would just kick you off the team. And I get there's certain rules for certain players that everyone's equal. Sometimes certain players, certain star players get away with more. If Pat Mahomes, Travis Kelce spoke to Andy Reid that way, they can get away with it. A guy on the bench, the last guy on the bench who barely is on the team, he'd probably get thrown out instantly. He'd probably be cut within 2 seconds before the game's over. Yeah. So there are certain rules for certain players. But I would have a talk with him. I would first say that this is not going to be tolerated. You cannot act this way. You can't publicly disrespect me in front of the whole team. I would then make him run punishment laps. I would then have him apologize to the team in front of everyone, because I'm like, you have to be man enough. You thought you were man enough to embarrass me and your teammates like that. You now have to apologize to your teammates why you decided it was all about you and you had to act like pretty much a big baby. So they would have to apologize to me and to their teammates. They would have to run punishment laps, and then I would sit them for a little bit. I probably would, for baseball, I'd sit them for at least a game, and then if they've done all those other steps and they seem contrite and apologize, then I would let them back on and play again. If not, then there's a possibility they would be off the team.
Yeah, I mean, I just, and that's the thing, and you brought it up. It's if this is the backup running back, he might be looking for a job off of Kansas City next season. If he's the punter, if he is the third or fourth wide receiver, if he's the fourth string cornerback, he might be off the team. But in the case of Travis Kelce, I think for me, and it's the first thing I thought because I've covered sports for so long, is that it's like, okay, doing this is, I mean, you get kicked off a team for doing something like that, but it's Travis Kelce. So you sit here and you think, okay, well, he's probably going to have nothing happen to him. He's probably going to be totally fine. He's probably going to be able to excuse himself and say, oh, sorry, coach, I just got really emotional in the moment. But the reality of it all is, in my opinion, when you're coaching, you have to treat everybody the same. And the reason why you have to treat everybody the same is simply this. if you do not treat everybody the same and there's certain rules for certain people, what will happen is nobody will follow your rules. Because if there's certain rules for certain people, that creates dissension. And I can tell you this from being in the media. There's a university that I'm not going to name, but everybody knows. And that university treats media people differently. And it doesn't matter if you do a good job. It doesn't matter if you tell the truth. In all honesty, if you're a liar who steals a bunch of information and has no morals and values, you probably have more access than I do. And the funny thing is, they write stories off of my quotes, yet they have the access. So it's weird how that stuff happens. But when I look at things and I look at like that example, it causes dissension. Because after a decade of covering that university, when they tell you, oh, these coaches aren't doing interviews, and then you see them on the news channel, you see them in the newspaper, you see them here, then you call them out, and then they want you to pretend like you didn't see the interview because they told you there wasn't one. And
like the Men in Black movie when they'd have that little laser thing and it wipes your memory clean. You have no idea that what you just saw actually happened.
Right, and then after you question them very nicely and say, hey, if they get to do it, then I want to do it because you said these were the rules, and obviously they're not. Then they'll see you out in public and they'll not talk to you because they can't face you because they lied to you, and you want to know why. And then you bump into a coach, and a coach is like, oh, I'd love to do an interview with you. I didn't even know that you requested me. So when I've been through that, it causes dissension. It causes you to believe there are no rules, and you lose respect. So in my opinion, in the same case with the Kansas City Chiefs, I think if Andy Reid is afraid of Travis Kelce, if Andy Reid backs away from Travis Kelce, then other guys kind of realize, okay, well, then why do I need to come to practice on time? Why do I need to do this? Why do I need to do that? And then if enough people can get together and speak out publicly about this, or if Andy Reid tells this cornerback, this wide receiver, a bunch of guys that aren't household names, he chooses 5, 6, 7 guys, and he says, you guys got to run because you were 5 minutes late to practice, and they sit down and they go, no. And he goes, well, I'm going to cut you. And then they say, okay, well, you're still going to pass. We're all under contract. I mean, the reality of it all is, yes, you could be cut. Yes, you could be threatened. But when you threaten a coach, if you do nothing, then what it becomes in the locker room when the coach isn't in that locker room is people going, well, we can't do that. We can't do that, Bob. And he goes, well, Travis can. So, and then people start to not respect or appreciate Travis Kelce. Then that causes animosity between them and him. Then the other tight ends are like, what the hell is the point of even being here? I can't do this to him. If you do not show, if you are a leader of some of your team, then you're a leader of none of your team. And that is a belief I've always had. If you lead some players, if you scrutinize some players, if you give tough love to some players and you treat other people, you don't push them to be better. If you coach these people and have rules for them, but you don't have rules for these people, if here it's very strict and over here it's a madhouse, then you're not a coach. It's like a parent who makes dinner for 4 different dinners for their 4 children. You have to sit there, and I mean, my mom used to say, this is what we're eating tonight. This is what I made. And I think when you're a coach, you have to be a universal coach, and you have to say, this is my plan, these are my rules, this is the dinner I put on the table. If you don't want to eat it, then you're going to go hungry. Instead of going, okay, these are my rules, this is my dinner, this is what you have to eat to the 50 guys, and then to the other 3, they go, hey, Pat, hey, Isaiah, hey, Travis, what would you like for dinner? Because even if the team still wins, there's dissension, there's disrespect, there's animosity, there's hate, there's negativity, and eventually that festers in a locker room.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, eventually you'll lose the locker room, and right now it's all fun and games because they're winning and everything's great and hunky-dory with the Chiefs, but it was disrespectful, and I know he was caught off guard, so like that's why he seemed like to fall back a little bit. Andy Reid probably if he was expecting something like that, but you should never be that close enough where you could bump the coach. So it looked worse than probably what it is, and I know Tom Brady and Larry Fitzgerald, a lot of other former NFL stars. So you don't know, this happens in the heat of the moment, and they made excuses, but still should not be tolerated. Travis Kelce should know better. He shouldn't be that entitled to get away with that. He said as much on his podcast this week, his New Heights podcast, said that I went too far. His brother Jason Kelce said the same thing. So I would hope that he's apologized. He probably should get a fine. And I'm not saying they're going to sit him a game, but I would sit my player a game. And especially at the amateur level, I'd make him run and do something to community service, do something where he could kind of repent for his negative actions.
Yeah, I'm looking at this right now, and I'm just absolutely happy for him, and at the same time, this is just like somewhat like an oh my goodness moment. Blaine Gabbert has 2 Super Bowl rings.
Yeah.
Because Blaine Gabbert was a quarterback backup for Kansas City and a backup for Tampa.
Jimmy Garoppolo has, I think, 2 Super Bowl rings as a backup for Brady.
But I'm looking at him like former Jaguar, right? And then Chris Conley was on San Francisco's side. You know, we look at Jawan Taylor, who didn't work out in Jacksonville as a tackle. They let him go. They didn't sign him after his rookie contract, and he just won one with Kansas City. Just interesting. But, yeah, I mean, you have to take care of the locker room. You cannot be a leader of some, you know. That's the problem with this country, right? This is the problem with this country in its main. The president is the president of some. The president is the president of his party. You know, the other president is the president of their party. They're not
for all.
Right, they're not a president for the country. You know, the thing is, when you run in an election and you have a party that you're running with, and you win.
Dan, I gotta stop you for 1 second. I gotta go.
Oh yeah, you gotta go. Oh, I just looked at that.
Because if I don't get out there, I'm gonna get a lot of phone calls. So I gotta get my buddy.
Oh yeah, I didn't even realize the time it was. But I will say this really quick. Whenever you're running for president, you run with your party. But the moment that you become the president of the United States, you become the president of all parties, and you have to represent the country. And that's how I feel. You know, Andy Reid can't be the leader of some and not the leader of others. And I got to tell you, this Travis Kelce thing, I don't think you just sweep it under the rug. I think you got to handle this right now. And I, again, didn't see what time it was. You got to go get my nephew, so go and do that. But I send you my love. LCCC, go see their baseball coming up here. Luzerne County Community College. Ross is the head coach of the Trailblazers in their return to baseball. And Major League Baseball will be back very soon for spring
Pitchers
training.
and catchers. They already started spring training next week, spring training games. So baseball on TV. So get excited.
Yeah, I'll talk to you soon, buddy. Good to see you.
Bye, Dan. See ya.
Take care. So that coming from Ross Turetsky here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports truly meets that thing called life. I didn't even realize the time. So the time flies when him and I talk. I'm happy that we got the opportunity to speak this morning on the show. And LJ, Daddy's on his way. So Ross, will see you soon. Appreciate you all for all that you bring to the broadcast. And I do want to get to a note here. We got some notes in the feed of the big name free agent wide receivers. Do I see any of them changing teams? T. Higgins, Michael Pittman Jr., Mike Evans, Calvin Ridley. I've actually brought up all these guys. I said that the Buffalo Bills should make a play for any grouping of them. So I think T. Higgins definitely could be on another team. I mean, Jamar Chase is the number one choice. So I think that could definitely make sense for him to look elsewhere. I think when it comes to Michael Pittman, it depends on what the future is. Does Michael Pittman want to play with Anthony Richardson? Does he believe Anthony Richardson is the quarterback of the future? Right? They did pretty well with Gardner Minshew. They were at the doorstep of the postseason, and most of the season was with Gardner Minshew. Anthony Richardson got hurt very early on in his rookie year. So, you know, Michael Pittman, it depends if he wants to play with Anthony Richardson. Mike Evans, listen, he's been in the league for a while. He's spent his time in Tampa. Does he want to go to other pastures? Mike Evans is a veteran wide receiver that can look around the league and say to himself, I could go to the Chargers right now. Jim Harbaugh would be my coach. Justin Herbert would be my quarterback. And, you know, there's other guys here that are getting longer in the tooth, as they say. So I have the opportunity to go there and do some good things, right? They need my help. The Chargers, they can't keep their wide receivers healthy, right? One guy goes down, they both go down. So I think Mike Evans, that could be an attractive landing spot for him. And, you know, I think if I'm Mike Evans, I'm looking at Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, I'm looking to say to myself, Joe Burrow, right? Do I maybe want to go there if T. Higgins is going to leave? Calvin Ridley's an interesting one because the Jaguars took a flyer on him. And now we're in a place where, is he going to be long term? Is Press Taylor, the offensive coordinator, going to get him the ball more? Is there going to be better situations here for him? So, Calvin Ridley could very well stay in Jacksonville, or he could thank Jacksonville for getting him back in the league and he could jump ship and go somewhere else. Does Calvin Ridley want to play with Josh Allen? I think the big question here is, what do the Buffalo Bills do with their wide receiver core? What do the Chargers do with their wide receiver core when health and these guys spending a lot of years in the NFL, eventually Keenan Allen, Mike Williams getting injured almost every single season, God willing it never happens again, but them getting injured a lot and getting older, you have to look at who wants to play with Herbert. But right now, if you want a shot at winning a Super Bowl title, if I'm any one of those guys, I'm looking at Buffalo. I'm looking potentially to Cincinnati as well. Right? So the only difference between Buffalo and Cincinnati is I don't think Buffalo has a dominant number one guy. I don't put Diggsy as the number one dominant guy. But I think if you go to Cincinnati, you have to understand whoever you are, you might be playing second fiddle to Jamar Chase. If you go to the Chargers, you're bringing health and, all the guys that we talked about bringing talent. So I think the Chargers is an open doorway, but how much time do you want to spend? Right? Great opportunity, open pasture. Can this team get to the playoffs? Buffalo Bills, really good situation. Nobody's the number one. Cincinnati, good situation. You'd probably be the number two. So there are some opportunities out there for them. It's just which ones do they want to take. But I definitely think some of these are attractive, like the Chargers, like the Bengals, like the Bills. I think the Bills is the most attractive. Greg said they did pretty well with Richardson also. His future is very optimistic based on his brief window. Yeah, we'll see. Does Michael Pittman want to be a part of that? That's up to Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman, of all the guys that are out here on this list of Ridley and Higgins and Ridley and Higgins as well as Pittman and Evans, Pittman's the youngest. So, does Michael Pittman, does he really think that this team can win with him and Anthony Richardson? Does he think that they can make the playoffs? Does he think they have an actual shot at the Super Bowl? Right? He's the number one guy in Indy. So that's a great opportunity. You don't want to necessarily leave that. But does Michael Pittman, young in his career, want a shot at winning a title, multiple titles? In that case, there's other places to go. I think Baltimore is an attractive team. I don't know if it's an attractive place for a wide receiver. Not that Lamar Jackson doesn't throw the ball, because he does, but it's a different offense. I think, these guys go to Kansas City, maybe you got to take a pay cut. But if I'm long in my years like Mike Evans, do I call up Kansas City and say, hey, I'll be on the other side of Rashee Rice? I don't need to make a ton of money. I'll go sign for a couple of years, see what happens. That would be another thing. I think that there's a lot of interesting storylines when we look at the world of receivers and their opportunities in the 2024-25 upcoming NFL season. We're going to take a step aside for a fast break. We'll be back to wrap up the show right after this.
Hi, this is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the Whole Frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory remind us that every day is worth celebrating at 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. Open Monday through Saturday in-store and always online at maandpaspopcorn.com. Serving our Central New York community and beyond, order anywhere, anytime at maandpaspopcorn.com. Stop in to get a tin at Ma and Pa's on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York to get your half-price refills for the rest of your life. Come to Ma and Pa's for your holiday gift giving for family, friends, employees, and clients. And remember, for fundraising and events, to call 315-450-6272. That's 315-450-6272. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily, and we bring in local produce. We prepare it to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. It's different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life, that's a very, very different experience than you will have in any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family-friendly. Some family-friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant.
GG Cards and Breaks. Like, comment, subscribe.
GG Cards and Breaks, coming to you on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, is worth you going out every single week. There's amazing stuff you're going to find at GG Cards and Breaks, from singles to packs to boxes, as well as having their graded cards that are there. They just brought in a bunch of new singles that you can go and see, be it a rookie card, be it an auto, a special numbered card. So many great things coming in all the time at GG Cards and Breaks. I love the fact they are constantly just giving you great products, great opportunity. See, I'm such a fan That's the thing. I'm a fan of sports cards. And to those of you that have never collected cards before, you say, Dan, why do you collect cards? Right? They're just cards, piece of cardboard. Why do you collect it? Because when you have your favorite teams and you have your favorite players, they connect you to that. Right? When you have your hometown, you realize the players from your hometown, that connects you to it. It's like a little piece of history that you get to keep with you wherever you go. Maybe you put it in your car, maybe you put it in your pocket, maybe you put it in a case. But it's such an awesome world, and it's kind of like your own stock market, because you get a card, you forget about it. Like I have a Steph Curry rookie, pulled it from a pack of cards years ago, and I forgot about it. Now I bring it back out, I look at it, I'm like, man, if I got this thing graded, this thing could be $800, could be $1,000, right? And it's just a card that was just sitting in my office. So there's value to it. There's value to it in being a big kid. There's value to it in actually buying, selling, and trading. And it brings people together, right? It creates these friendships that would have never been formed without that. This sports card world, this hobby, this connection that people have, it's such a beautiful thing. And I see it all the time during trade night that they have at GG Cards and Breaks. We do some of them on the road at the Wildcat Sports Pub. We've had a couple there. And we also have them on site on location at GG Cards and Breaks on 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York. The upcoming trade night that we're going to have is next Thursday, a week from today, February 22nd. And that is going to be on site on location at 639 Delmar Place in Syracuse, New York, right off of Teal Ave. So trade night going to be on February 22nd from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. at the store for GG Cards and Breaks. And I implore you to come out there. If you've collected before, if you've never collected before, it's a great way to experience the world of sports cards. And I tell people all the time, it's the same hobby. You're just creating new memories. You see people there, kids, right? Kids that are the age that I was when I started collecting, kids that are younger than I was when I started collecting, and then you see their parents. You see people in there that could be in their 60s, right? There's so many different ages, and it brings all of it together. It brings the sports world, it brings the collecting world, it brings the hobby, it's the personalization, right? I'm a Damon Stoudemire fan and a Toronto Raptor fan. I have this Damon Stoudemire collection that is separate from the rest of my collection, and it means so much to me because I always liked him. And I love the fact that when I look at these cards, I think about my mom and I think about my grandmas and them helping me collect these cards. I think about the people along the way that helped me to find the cards I didn't have. It's just a beautiful thing. And there's such a story and a poetry to collecting cards. So I tell you to go to GG Cards and Breaks because it's so much more than just collecting. 639 Delmar Place, Syracuse, New York. Open Monday through Saturday from 10 to 6 and on Sundays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Let them know the DT sent you. And I appreciate everybody that's already gone over there. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, again, this show flew by. I had every intent of maybe going a little bit past 11, and we're almost at noon Eastern time today, thanks to the great conversation with Danny Schayes and Ross Turetsky here on our channels that you can find all over the world. Anywhere you are, we are with you. YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT, Facebook.com/WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.podbean.com. So you can find us on any one of these Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And when we spill past 11 a.m., we'll still be on these channels for you as well. Big time thank you to all of the wonderful places that we are in the archives so you can go back and find past shows, and we break up the shows too. So like today's show, there would be a Danny Schayes episode and there'd be a Ross Turetsky episode. So you could be able to go directly to my conversation with Ross, directly to my one with Danny. We put all this up. We cut up the show into the different segments and pieces and interviews so you can go directly to that person, directly to that topic on Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, iTunes, and Apple Podcasts, Player FM, Podbean, Podchaser.com, Podvine, Spotify, TuneIn, YouTube, and more. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on any one of these outlets, or one word, Wake Up Call DT. When you find us, click subscribe, follow, so that you don't miss any of our shows, and that when we update those feeds, you'll get a notice saying, hey, there's a new show on TuneIn. Hey, did you see that there's a new show, Wake Up Call, added to iHeart? And you could be able to connect with us all the time for free wherever you are. Big time thanks to all of our partners in Central and Upstate New York. We implore you to go and visit them. They are wonderful, wonderful establishments with great food, great cars, great place to leave your dog for short and long-term care. I am very honored to work with the wonderful places I work with. Great place to collect when I'm talking about GG Cards and Breaks. This is a wonderful group of really hardworking, tremendous people. Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Mon Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, GG Cards and Breaks, PB&J's Lunchbox, Avicoli's, Great Lakes Honda City, Pizza Man, Mother's Cupboard, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, and we are proud to be the exclusive multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne College Dolphins. It's Fins Up every single month on Wake Up Call. You'll find your Dolphins during Dolphin Time, Wednesdays at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, weekly. First and third Wednesday of each month, you'll find AD and DT with Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora. The second and fourth Wednesday of each month, you'll find the Dolphin Dive, diving into stories of student athletes, coaches, administration, future Dolphins, and alumni. We underpromise and overdeliver, so there's more specials than the ones we promise you once a week. We have plenty going on throughout the year. Make sure that you get all of our content by subscribing to our YouTube channel on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Hit the notification bell and check out our Lemoyne Dolphins playlist. You can also find the Dolphins on wakeupcalldt.com underneath exclusive partners. And for more information on your Dolphins, go to LemoyneDolphins.com. As always, Fins Up. The Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats of Syracuse are exclusive multimedia marketing partners with Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. You will find your Bobcats every single month here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Right now, we're inside of basketball season, so men's and women's basketball front and center. We also have men's and women's soccer, baseball heading into their second season, and the opportunity to share with you esports, which we have brought on the show before and had the conversation, and now very honored and privileged with Connor Carroll taking over that program and everything that's going to come with the esports program at Bryan and Stratton College of Syracuse. You can find our content by going to youtube.com/wakeupcalldt and clicking subscribe and the notification bell. And of course, you can see our BSC Syracuse playlist on our YouTube channel. You can also find the Bobcats on wakeupcalldt.com underneath exclusive partners. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. And this week on Friday and Saturday, make sure you go to Allen Hall on the Onondaga Community College campus in Syracuse to support and cheer on your Bryan and Stratton College Bobcats men's and women's basketball programs. For more information, go to syracuse.bscbobcats.com. And as always, go Bobcats. With that being said, here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, I want to thank you for being a part of the show. I got to unveil my first ever jersey-esque of the Arizona Diamondbacks. I have never worn a number of the Diamondbacks. This is their Hispanic Heritage Month jersey here, the Serpientes, for to take the place of the Snakes, the Diamondbacks. So the Serpientes here with the number 51, my favorite of all time pitcher, Mr. Randy Johnson, and this was given to me by my incredible father. So thank you, Dad, for that. Keep praying for everybody out there. Keep saying good prayers I keep praying for your family and you and all of your loved ones. Keep praying for mine. Let's change this world for the better together. God bless you, Mom and Dad, and happy that Mom's home safe and sound, and just hoping the best for my parents, for Lily, for all my loved ones, and for all of you. Find us on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, X at Call DT, Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT, and find your way over to Lemoyne today as the Lemoyne Dolphins will head back into Division I for women's lacrosse, as they are one of two teams that used to be Division I. Now, with this being a fully fledged Division I institution, we have the opening of the Division I season for women's lacrosse, and they just celebrated 30 years last season, and what a perfect way, coming and celebrating 3 decades to now return to Division I, and they get to do that on their field, which I'm very excited about. Thursday against California. The Golden Bears traveling in, and that game is going to be on Ted Grant Field today, February 15th. So make sure you bundle up and come out and see a part of history at 1 o'clock this afternoon. So in just an hour from now, they'll be playing up against the Cal Golden Bears. And then at 7 o'clock tonight, you will see the men's basketball team, Ted Grant Court inside in the Event and Rec Center. You will watch the men's basketball team face off against Central Connecticut State University. They defeated them on the road when Central Connecticut State was at the top of the conference. And now as we take a look at where things are with the men's basketball team at Lemoyne trying to make it into the postseason here, they're in the top 4. They like to host a postseason game, not just make it, but host one. And as the standings are right now, Lemoyne is currently in a tie here for 4th place with Wagner, FD, and FDU, and Central Connecticut State is still number 1 in the conference. So if they're able to defeat CCSU at home tonight, that will move them up. They will officially be in the top 3, tied with Sacred Heart, and have an opportunity to get a home playoff game. So huge implications tonight. A lot of history to talk about for women's lacrosse and playoff implications for men's basketball. All happening on the Heights at Lemoyne at 1 o'clock for women's lacrosse and at 7 o'clock for men's basketball. I look forward to seeing you out there. I hope you have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless, no stress, do your best. Chase your dreams, ask God to guide you and guard you, and my prayers to each and every single one of you. I do want to end the show with a prayer for everyone who needs it, including the people of Kansas City, Missouri. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. God, I come to you today asking, as I always ask, for health, for happiness, for safety, for peace. I ask you to heal the wounds, whatever wounds they are, be them physical, social, mental, emotional, spiritual, economical, whatever they are. Please heal our wounds, help us to heal our wounds, and help us to help each other. I pray for the victims of Kansas City. I pray for victims everywhere and anywhere. I also pray for the perpetrators in Kansas City and the perpetrators anywhere and everywhere. Because if we pray for the victim, we're praying for someone who's hurt. But if we don't pray for the perpetrator, then we're not praying for their hearts to be changed. We're not asking them to turn toward you. Without perpetrators, we don't have victims. So I pray for everyone in a hope that we can warm the hearts and change the hearts and heal the hearts of those that are doing bad things so that we not only don't have victims, but we don't have people out there doing evil acts and saying evil things. I pray for the health and safety of everyone, as I said, for us to heal completely and for good, and no matter what, to heal through you, my Lord, to handle well whatever comes our way, be it in our control or out of our control, what's coming our way. May we be safe and sound, even with our loved ones that have passed on. May we all be together through you, because dying you destroyed our death, and rising you restored our lives. I pray and I hope for the people of Kansas City, Missouri, all of their loved ones, that anyone who's been injured, hurt, or has any type of PTSD or trauma from this, that every single person heals, and that their loved ones heal, and that those that did this heal, and that their loved ones heal, and that the person that passed away is already safe and sound in heaven, and that their loved ones heal, and that that person in heaven is already healed up and connected with their loved ones here on earth, even in death, as I said before, because you conquered death. May you conquer every pain, every worry, every doubt, every fear of this world, and may we see your healing hand everywhere and anywhere, today, tomorrow, and always. In Jesus' most precious name, I pray that love will always win, and I thank you for your time, God. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Have a beautiful day. God bless you all. Stay safe.